Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the GDQ Hotfix. Today, we are going to be doing a showcase of glitches from Poppy Playtime 1 through 3. Before we get into it, just a few quick reminders for you. GDQ 2025 will be live from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania from January 5th through 12th. Registration and hotel bookings are now open. You can go to gamesdonequick.com and check the GDQ 2025 important dates section to learn more. Also, GDQ's next all-women and femme speedrunning event, Phase Fatale 2025, will be live from March 9th through 16th. Submissions are open from now until the end of the day, Sunday, November 24th, so you can go to gamesdonequick.com/framefatales for more information on that. With all of that said, I'll hand it over to our runner here whenever you're ready.
All right, I think we're good. Hey, thank you, Church, for the introduction. Hey, I am Nerd Squared. I run a whole smorgasbord of games from different genres, mainly sticking to like horror action stuff and sticking with the horror theme, given that we just had Halloween a few weeks ago. I'll be playing Poppy Playtime, but not only will I be playing Poppy Playtime, I'll be playing Poppy Playtime Chapter 1, Poppy Playtime Chapter 2, and Poppy Playtime Chapter 3, because you might have seen it with my past couple of times I ran the Chapter 2 and 3 at previous GDQ events with the mainline events. I did Chapter 3 at SGDQ 2024 with any percent, and Chapter 2 at AGDQ 2023 with 100%. And some of the glitches and things you can do in this game are absolutely crazy, and this little special we put together is basically gonna try to showcase as much of all three chapters as we can, because there's some absolutely crazy stuff you can do. Of course, we starting with Chapter 1. We're going through all three chapters in order. And a couple of quick things to note before we get into the guts of this. I'm playing on version 1.0 for Chapter 1 to start. For most of the chapters, we play in 1.0. Just because all the crazy fun stuff we get to do got patched out in later patches. And you can't exactly see it right now on the screen, so I'll go ahead and point it out here in the menu. Pay attention to the frame rate right there. Right now it's at 120. I'll be changing that a lot throughout all three of the games, because frame rate is very important in all three chapters. It's like the bread and butter of all the weird physics stuff we get to do in this game. So you'll be seeing me change frame rate a lot throughout all three of the games. Also, now I know exactly when we want to start the timer, so you can go ahead and start it whenever. To start off with, it's not really a glitch, but it's just something we have to do whenever we reset runs on 1.0 of Chapter 1. So you saw that pop up right there. That's the intro cutscene to the game. What I just did right there is I Alt F4'd out of the game. And for some reason, 1.0 of Chapter 1, you are not able to skip that intro cutscene. They did add it in later patches, thankfully, but they didn't have it in this one. So every time we'd have to reset runs, we'd have to start a new game, Alt F4, because when you start that intro cutscene, you get a little autosave. And we can just continue the game from there. Alright, so we are off to the races, and we already get to a pretty big reset point, which sounds weird given that we're in the first 5 seconds. But we have to hit these buttons here to open this door. The pattern we want to go for with this is red, yellow, pink, I believe is what that color is, and then green. So kind of like that. Boop, 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 boop. And how you actually find that out, pro tip if you want to play this casually, is over here in this room. You see this train right here that's kind of doing its thing up on that train track up there. The colors on the train are the order you need to hit them. Although, of course, like I showed you, you can hit it in the reverse order. So I'll go ahead and enter the buttons to open the door. There we go. So it might not look like it, but like I said, that is a very big reset point at the beginning of runs, because Chapter 1 as a speedrun is such an optimized game that if you're like even a millisecond too slow on these buttons, you have to reset. It's to the point where on a category extensions board we have for this chapter, we literally have a category just for hitting the buttons as fast as you can. That's how stupid precise that is, and that's how much of a menace it is for us runners. And then typically,
that's so brutal.
I know. Thankfully it's within the first 5 seconds, so it's not a huge deal, but it gets worse later. Right after we hit that button, we typically go into the pause menu right here. All 3 chapters of Poppy are timed with a loads removed or load remove timer or LRT. And the loads are taken out both when you're in a load screen and when you're in the menu like this. So you can take as much time as you want picking load game. Anyways, doing that just puts us right past the door, so we don't have to wait for the door to open. And we have to put this tape in. This will give us a tutorial for the grab pack. It's a signature mechanic of Poppy that I'll get into in a second. First, I'll be putting these 2 tapes in. For all 3 chapters, outside of going on side tangents, I'm going to try to follow the 100% or no major skips route, pretty much. And we have to wait for a minute here because you have to wait for this tape to end for that glass case to open to grab the grab pack. And in 1.0 of the game, we have no way of skipping this. They did add the ability to skip in later patches, but again, we need to be down patched for the cool stuff, so we just need to sit here and watch this, which is very loud, by the way, but we'll deal with it. It's kind of funny, actually. It has like Tom and Jerry. We skip past it, obviously, but there's some like funny Tom and Jerry illustrations in that little tutorial right there. So yeah, as soon as the glass case opens, we go ahead and quit out right there, because again, when that glass case opens, we get an autosave where we already have the grab pack. And this is the signature mechanic, again, that you'll see throughout all 3 of the games. And this is a very weird mechanic if you've never played any of the chapters before, but just think of it like those, I don't know the name of it, but it's like those grabby toys that you can extend a little bit to like grab things from underneath your bed or something. It's kind of like that. Yeah. So just imagine that in a first-person horror game. It's not actually that complicated once you get used to it, but it's definitely a little daunting when you first play the game. Most commonly, we'll use it to open doors like we just used in that blue hand, with that blue hand on the scanner right there to get to the next room. But this one's broken down real quick, so we just need to go over here and power up the door again. Again, another signature mechanic of Poppy are these electric puzzles. You'll typically do this to activate a door that you need to go through. And there's a minor, again, not really a glitch, but a minor glitch technically with this one. Because what you're supposed to do is yoink this door off and then activate that electric node with the grab pack. But if you position your cursor just right, just like that. That's actually kind of tricky to get, so I'm glad I got that. If you position your cursor just right, you can shoot the grab pack right through that door and activate the electric node. And we have to... Okay, yeah, sometimes this can happen too, where the core just behaves really strangely. So it ends up just passing through walls. Yeah, it's gonna happen sometimes. It's a really strange bug. Like I said, I'm playing on 1.0, so things aren't exactly the most stable. You guys have to activate or touch both of those poles while the core to the grab pack is electrified. And I'll turn on the power to this door right here. And there's a trick you can do here in this hallway. I'm going to opt to not go for it just because I'm not entirely consistent with it. But I'll kind of quickly explain it so you get the gist. It's called Hyperspeed Hallway, and it essentially involves going to, I think it's around 60 or 30 FPS. So I'll go ahead and go to 30. You grab the side of this box. There we go, just like that. And then you want to try to run into this door at the same time I open it. Yeah, if you get it just right, the core of the grab pack will get tangled up in the door frame. And then as you walk down this hallway, you get a bit of a speed boost forwards because the end of the grab pack where the hand is trying to pull you back. Unfortunately, I'm not very consistent with it, so I'm just going to opt to not go for it. Don't worry, though. We have plenty of crazy stuff later. Speaking of which, I'm going to go back to 60 because there's just for a trick later on. But first, I'm going to show what the room looks like without skipping things. So we have to power this terminal right here with 4 batteries. You can see there are 4 slots. To get our red hand over there, that's the other hand of the grab pack, that we need again to interact with puzzles. You can see those 2 scanners right there. But the place where these 4 batteries spawn are completely random, and I don't know where they're going to be. So I just kind of have to look for them on the fly here. I know where the spawns are ahead of time, but they can still be kind of tricky to find nonetheless, because you kind of have to react on the fly to where they are. So that one's behind the boxes, that one's on top of the pipe, and this one is just behind the shelves. So if we go into the menu real quick, you can see we have all 4 plugs right there. Plugs, batteries, either one. And that, I got a pretty decent pattern right there, but those batteries can be very mean and hide in very obscure spots. Even if you know the game pretty well and you know roughly where the spawns are, like I do, you can just like be completely caught by surprise. They'll just start questioning your existence because you'll be like scrambling trying to find the last battery and you'll be like, where in the heck is it? And then it's just in the very obvious spot that you didn't see before somehow. Also, at one point I noticed this really weird thing where it changes the frame rate to 30 for some reason when you go in the menu. It behaves really strangely. Let's have to change it back. Actually, Comrade Dad, I got an interesting point relating to that. So we had a community chat. By the way, I am reading chat, just so you are aware. But yeah, speaking of devs speedrunning Poppy, we had a community challenge for this game with the help of some speedrun.com people. It was a community tournament where we ran current patch, a chapter 1 and 2 together as a duo challenge is what it was called. And actually, as part of that challenge, one of the developers of all 3 chapters, who I believe was a lead programmer, I may be wrong, named Tobias Kaskia, came and ran the game along with us. So, very rarely do you see devs pick up their own game as a speedrun, but we got a case there. And with a game like Poppy, which is just like an absolutely viral game you might have seen popping off on the internet, crazy. But yeah, we have both hands of the grab pack now. That'll open the door. I'm going to have to crouch under here. I'm going to do another one of those LRT abuses, where I'm going to go into the pause menu here and then load game. That just lets me move to the right here, because otherwise I'd be flung forward with that little bit of momentum I got going down this slide. Alright, we have another electric puzzle, although there is a way to cheese this one, because normally you'd have to go all the way around this whole room to solve the puzzle, but we're going to cheese it through a technique, I believe, called rookie skipping. And the basis behind it is these little electric nubs right here, because normally when you shoot a hand at these little electric nubs, it slips off just like that. But if in the brief moment while the hand is traveling towards the electric nub, you press the button or mouse button for that hand again and click succession, just like that, the hand will grab onto the electric nub and stay on. So you can just grab both electric nodes from right here instead of having to run around the whole room. And there's a pretty funny effect with this one because the game does not expect you to hit that electric pole right here while going down the ramp. Yoink. Just does a little weird zip like that. Then you ride a conveyor belt into the next area of the game. However, I'm actually going to load a checkpoint real quickly. And then go back to the beginning of the room where I grabbed those 4 plugs, because you saw that hullabaloo we just did with the random plug spawn puzzle, I guess, and then doing that rookie skip to cheese the puzzle. Turns out we don't have to do that. There's a way to completely skip getting the red hand. And I mentioned how FPS is very important for all 3 chapters, and this is the very first instance of that in the games. Because we can go over there with some clever platforming to get out of bounds, to get to the conveyor belt that we just landed on. And the setup for it isn't too complex, but it is pretty difficult, as you'll see in a second. You want to aim around right there. You can see that little crease in that yellow bin. I'm going to try to aim at the corner right around there. And also I'm at 60 FPS for this. And then I'm going to set up the cursor kind of precisely. It's not too precise, but the setup can be particular nonetheless. So right around there, and then I'll pull that yellow cart towards me. That looks like good orientation. Cool. So when you drag a prop like this and it touches your feet while you're still dragging it towards you, it gets kind of frozen in place. So now we can use this yellow box, I guess, as a platform, and we want to try to get over to that red conveyor belt over there. I didn't quite get it. I was just a little short right there. It makes it a little trickier to set up now, because that box is going to be in a not optimal position, and I have to improvise. Because physics in the games, as you'll learn, especially when we get to Chapter 3, they can be a little random, especially when you mess up the setup and have to like work out a setup on the fly. So now that I have to do this weird setup, it might take a quick second, but there we go. We got on top of the conveyor belt at the top of the room, and you're not supposed to be here. Like, the game prevents you from getting up here for a reason, because as we'll see here, once we crouch under this invisible wall, there's just a bunch of out of bounds. And in this room just across, right over there, that's where the conveyor belt is. I'm gonna try to do a jump forward towards that tunnel, and then in the middle of the jump, hold upright to try to land on this tiny invisible ledge that just barely sticks out from the wall. And I have to do a pretty particular setup on this side with the cursor. I'm basically waiting until I back up here, and that little, you can see that little edge of the rectangle, that's the middle of the cursor right there. I'm gonna make sure it lines up with the edge of this metal sheeting. Alright, and then I'm going to aim my cursor around the edge of that little groove in the wall right there. First try, no shot.
Nice.
Except I kind of got stuck. Hello, my guy? Hello?
Oh, no.
Just wiggle worm, there we go. So yep, we got to the end of the conveyor belt. Oh, we also ended up skipping a lengthy sequence where we'd have to wait on the conveyor belt. That gets us right here. This is, if you've played Chapter 1, you remember this room. This is where we construct a toy that we need to put in this scanner right here. So let's grab that tape and we'll go up to start the power, because again, a lot of electric puzzles in Poppy, so we need to do one to actually create the toy, or at least start the machine that creates the toy. And as part of that, I'm going to do a tricky jump across this gap to skip part of the puzzle where we'd have to drag this bridge across. Okay, good. It would have been very annoying if I fell right there, because I have to run up those stairs and come all the way back here. Yeah, we've activated the electricity now. We'll start up the machine. This will start up this this thing that'll create the toy for us that we need to put in the scanner. And while that's going, I'm going to set up for a trick that isn't entirely consistent, but it's one of those things where it's not consistent, but you go for it anyways, just on the off chance that it works. Because, again, if you play Chapter 1, you like to remember when you encounter Huggy Wuggy after putting the toy in the scanner. And at the start of that, if we set up these boxes correctly, like I'm doing right now, we will be able to have Huggy zip us out of the hallway. It's just some weird physics interaction where Huggy has this really strange hitbox at first, and if these boxes are set up in the correct way, I guess his collision collides with the box's collision. I don't know exactly how it works, but that's the gist. And it'll push us out of this hallway. And the amount you get pushed varies depending on how the physics decide to behave. Also, I'm going to try to grab this toy through the wall. Oh, nice. So if you position your cursor just right, like that, and then wait until the toy passes just into the view of the cursor, and then shoot your hand, you'll be able to grab it through the tube. Otherwise, you'd have to wait for it to get over here at the end of the conveyor belt. Alright, so we've set up the boxes, we have our toy. Hopefully Huggy decides to zip us. Yeah, it's a little random how far of a zip you get, and in that case I got no zip, which is great. But that's fine, we'll just go ahead and do the chase. Again, if you played Chapter 1, you more than likely remember this chase. This is what caused the game to go viral online. And it's pretty straightforward for the most part. Although there's a trick I can try to do at the end of it, which I'll talk about when we get there. And there's some minor movement optimizations you can do during this to shave off some time. Like right there, I hugged the right wall so I don't get flung to the end of the hall there during that little slide. Oh, and also you can bunny hop in this game by just holding spacebar. It's really nice. And I'm going to try to go for a trick here called Enterino Slide. Let's see if we get it. So if you position your cursor just right, and then pretty much the frame, you see that box appear, you shoot both of your hands, you can grab the box on your way down. Because what's supposed to happen, like you saw just there, is you pull down the box with the grab pack, it breaks open this bridge so you can get to this catwalk right here. And then you proceed to the rest of the game. But yeah. There's also, I'm not going to show it here just for the sake of time, but there is a version of that you can do. I don't know if it works on 1.0, but definitely works on the latest patch. There's a way to get on top of the metal beams above me right here and skip having to go on this catwalk. And you can just go right to this door, which leads to the end of the game. But I haven't had time to practice it before the showcase, so I opted just to not do it. There we go. There's our last tape. Now we just have to go to the end of the game. Do some jumps right here. Weird thing about Chapter 1, the jumps are on a bit of a delay. So if I just hold jump right here, I'm holding down space right now, you can see there's like a very slight delay when our main character jumps again, who, by the way, doesn't actually have a name and hasn't been revealed yet in the series, but we'll roll with it. So we just jump down those stairs because it's a little faster than running down the stairs normally. Now we just run over to the end room here. Chapter 1 is a very short game. I think the fastest runs of this right now are sub 5 for any percent, so yeah, very short game. We're just gonna go over to this door right here. Then we'll free Poppy right there, who's kind of the mascot of this series, more or less, from her cage. And right on that first flash of black is when time would end.
You opened my case.
So yeah, that's I could have shown off a bit more, but that's more or less Chapter 1 in a nutshell. Very short game, but very fun.
Yeah, and it's pretty cool, like, even in such a short game, like, how much there is that you can, like, glitch out or, you know,
Yeah.
like, all the tech that is available.
Yeah, it's like I was saying earlier, Chapter 1 is a very short game. To the point where, like, the top runs for, say, no major glitches are separated by milliseconds. It's that tight. And there's a lot of speedrun history with this series, which is part of the reason I wanted to do this showcase. And Chapter 1, even just something as short as Chapter 1, lots of good competition there. yeah, I think we're just about good to transition over to chapter 2 if we want to go to a quick break.
Perfect, yeah. So we're going to get set up here with chapter 2, everybody. Just before we go to the break to get that set up, we do have an official GDQ Discord now, and you can join it at the Hotfix. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Games One Quick Hotfix. Today we are showcasing Poppy Playtime, and we have some glitch showcases here for you. We're here with Poppy Playtime Chapter 2. I'll hand it right back over to you.
All right, thank you, Church. So I am Nerd Squared. For those that weren't here earlier, I speedrun a bunch of different horror action games, or at least mainly those two genres. We're doing a quick glitch showcase of all 3 chapters of Poppy, because they're absolutely wild speedruns, and there's a lot of cool stuff you can do in all 3 games. But right now we're on chapter 2. By the way, I have a friend with me. Don't mind her. We playing through chapter 2. And similarly with chapter 1 that we just did, frame rate is very important. For the most part, I'll be keeping the frame rate at 120 for like basic movements. And for some weird tricks you'll see later, I'll go to 30 FPS. If you want, so to give some context, right, I did run this actually at a mainline GDQ event. I did a 100% speedrun for AGDQ 2023, which was online. And in that run, I described chapter 2, the speedrun for it, at least 100%, as going from 0 to 100 very fast. Like immediately you're doing glitches and it just doesn't really stop after that. That's true even nowadays with batches and stuff, so I'm showing that off today. Like with chapter 1, I'll be doing 100% for all of these. For 1.0, for chapter 1 that I just did, it was getting all the VHS tapes, and that's also the case here, but there's also some gold statues of the different mascots of this series that I'll have to grab, and there's also some documents I'll have to grab. And similarly to chapter 1, where we had stuff right away, we have a trick right away. Because there's actually a debug feature, weirdly enough, that you can access in this game. And there's like a select few spots you can do it, but right here is where we typically do it because it's right at the start of the run. And it has to do with the little load screen that happens when you skip that intro cutscene. Because normally with this game, of course, it's taking place directly after chapter 1 ends. So typically you just start with the blue and red hands, like at the end of chapter 1. But there's a new souped up version of the right hand we get in this chapter that you can actually get right at the start through some really weird trickery. And it involves getting used to the loads of your computer, oddly enough, because basically what I'll be doing is I'll be mashing right click to shoot the right hand or the red hand at a certain time during this load screen. And hopefully we get our first try. My track record has been pretty good. Okay, so it can get stuck in the cabinet sometimes when you do this, but that's fine. So you'll see when our hand eventually gets freed right here. I'll take a quick second. There we go. So our hand is green right now. So how in the heck did that happen? That's essentially more or less a debug feature that was left in the game when Mob Entertainment was making this chapter. And for some reason, they left it in. And it's actually, funnily enough, in future chapters of this game. But they ended up patching it so that the game gets rid of your green hand when you get to an upcoming hallway. Yeah, but we have this green hand now, the souped up right hand. And getting this is important because we'll be needing this to do some puzzles early on. We need them to do a lot of like electric puzzles and also activate some electric nodes. Because like the whole thing with the green hand is that you take electricity from an electric node, kind of like we were doing with the puzzles in chapter 1, and then you shoot it at another green hand receptacle, I guess is what I'll call it, to open certain doors. So we need to get that early. Alright, I'll be going over here because we need a key to get in this office. Again, doing 100% rules, and there's a few collectibles we need to grab in there. And this chapter introduces a new mechanic, which stays in chapter 3 as well. The grapple hook. It behaves like grapple hook you might expect. Or like you might expect a grapple hook to behave. You just grab it like that and you swing across. Which you do by being airborne and then holding whichever hand you have hooked up to the grapple hook. Just like that. Pretty smooth sailing, right? Well, there's a way to break it, because if you noticed with the grapple hook, when you pull it towards you, or when you pull yourself towards it, there's like a brief pull when you're on the ground, and then when you're airborne, that's when the actual swing happens. That gives you enough momentum to get across. But the rate at which it pulls you towards the grapple hook and thereafter gives you back your hand that you used to swing, the rate of that is dependent on the frame rate. So if you go down to 30 here, which is the lowest frame rate cap you can set in the game through normal means, and then pull, you can see a much weaker swing than before. But we can actually use that to our advantage, because if we, in this instance, use the right hand, start swinging, but then while we're in the middle of being pulled towards the grapple hook, for lack of a better word, spam the crap out of both hands of the grab pack. There we go. We just zip across the hallway.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that's a technique called hyperspeed swing. Very apt name. And that is a core mechanic in this run. Granted, they can't do it absolutely everywhere, but it is a pretty core movement tech in the run. And what augments the hyperspeed swings is that you can, similarly with Chapter 1, use bunny hopping to preserve that momentum. And what's nice about it for Chapter 2 is the bunny hop is instant. So unlike before with Chapter 1, where there was a bit of a delay before the next jump goes through, here it's instant, which makes bunny hopping a lot nicer. So you don't even need to do like weird scroll binds or something with this game. You can just hold down spacebar, kind of like Quake or something like that, which is super nice. But yeah, zooming aside, we're gonna go over here and grab the key that we need to get into the office. And we'll hyperspeed swing our way back. Oh, and also you need to, with this hallway in particular, doing hyperspeed swings optimally is kind of tricky, because you can see there's this fluorescent light, I guess, right there, and this ladder right here. And if you're not careful, you can bonk into those and get tossed down to that pit in the middle. So we'll go in here. That's our first gold statue we need to grab. We'll grab this tape and documents. And this is where things get wild, if they haven't already. Because what you're supposed to do is go down here. Go down this little vent, and then you go in here to meet up with Poppy for the first time, at least first time officially in the series, after a quick electric puzzle to activate some hand receptacles that are up here at the top. But you actually don't have to do that, because since we're on 1.0 of the game, you see this wall right here, right? It doesn't exist. They just forgot to put collision there for some reason. And actually, if you played this chapter on launch, there's like a ton of bugs. But this one in particular lasted for a while for some reason. They didn't patch it until like the past year or so, as a matter of fact. So we can just walk right there and get out of bounds. Just like that. And we want to fall into the deep void right here, where we're just stuck in deep blackness, which might not seem very useful. But if you remember, we did the weird hyperspeed swing glitch in that hallway. And there's a grapple hook right here. So you can probably see where we're going with this. This is probably bar none, besides like maybe one I'll be shown later on, the hardest trick in the game. Because if you remember the hyper speed swing I did in that one hallway. You have to click very fast to be able to get it, even at this low of a frame rate. And what's tricky about this one is you not only have to do it within a specific rhythm, you also have to do the hand clicks for the hyperspeed swing at a very specific amount of times. If you do it too much, then you'll get too much momentum, and this area that we're trying to get to won't load in. And if you do too little clicks, you won't get enough momentum, and you'll just fall out of bounds. But anyway, essentially what we're trying to do with this is, like I said, zoom with a hyperspeed swing. And on the way there, when we go to where my cursor is pointing, over there, we want to try to hit a load trigger to load the, I forget what it's called, but the main hub of the game. The game station, yeah, that's what it's called. We're going to try to load the game station by hitting a load trigger on the way with a hyperspeed swing. The game station being kind of the main hub of Chapter 2. And I have to click a very specific rhythm for this and not do it too much or too little. You have to get just the right window. When I did this at HDQ 2023, I got it first try. I doubt that'll happen here, but my consistency with Chapter 2 and 3, really all the chapters, but 2 and 3 in particular, have been pretty good, but the tricks in this game are rough. So let's see. I think... Okay, I was hyping it up and I literally got it first try. So that's the game station over there. Let's do some more clicks with hyperspeed swing to get back in. And we're in the game station. We skipped a very lengthy cutscene with Mommy Longlegs, where she's held Poppy captive and gives us an ultimatum that then kicks off the plot of the game. And then we have to do a quick electric puzzle right before that. But we don't have to do that. Just for the sake of showcasing it, though, I will show what that cutscene looks like, just so you can see what it looks like normally. Just have to find my saves right here. I do have backup saves handy, because with the nature of this, I'm going to be... I can actually probably just start a new game. Because of the nature of this being, having to switch between games a lot, because I will be switching between patches later. Look out for that. Because of the nature of me having to reload a lot, I do have backup saves handy, just so I can go to wherever I want in the game. Yeah, that trick is a lot harder than it looks. Like I said, you have to do like a very specific rhythm with it, and you have to do a certain amount of times too. So what happens if you don't get it is either you do what I said, where you make it too much, where you go too far, or don't get enough momentum. What can also happen is as you start to do that hyper speed swing forward, you get pulled to the side because your hand is still stuck in that one vent where you meet Poppy, so you can get stuck there too. And actually, before we show what that section looks like as intended, I want to show what it looks like when it goes wrong, because it definitely can go wrong. I just have to get the green hand debug thing again. There we go. You can do it without the green hands getting stuck in the cabinet right there, but it's pretty specific window to get that. So we'll just go through the wall. It doesn't exist again. Alright, so I got it the first time, right? And you saw how I landed in the game station. But here's what it looks like when it goes wrong, because... or when you overdo it is more accurate. Because you saw how fast I can go if it goes well, but if I do it too much, this is what happens. Because if I just spam click right here and go out of bounds, there we go. we're done. The game's bricked. You go so far out of bounds that way that the game doesn't know what to do with you, and it just freezes up. Yeah, you can probably tell, by the way, the hyperspeed swings are a little broken. Just a little bit. Yeah. I'll just start the game again, do the green hand glitch. Of course, I got first try, because I'm good at doing inputs during the load screen. Like I said, you have to get used to your computer's loads to get the timing down for that. Which isn't too hard, but it can still be a process. Alright, so now I'll be doing kind of the alternate version of what I just did. By the way, that trick is called Nam Skip. It's not full skip where I walk out of bounds, or like do that crazy hyper speed swing out of bounds, but it's still kind of tough, and I might mess this up actually. I'm gonna try to get around this pipe to get to the... What's up? Yeah. Okay. It's all good. Yeah, that's my friend right there. Don't worry about that. But yeah, what we're going to try to do right here is go over this pipe to get to the other side of the vent. Oh, hold on. Oh, I was not crouched. That's why. Oh, there we go. And I'll try to run over to the other side. Nice. Okay, so that's part one, but we still need to get on... Oh, you know what? I screwed up. I'm supposed to do that 120. That is fine. We can just redo that. Let's do green hand glitch again. No. Yeah, like I said, the timing of some of these tricks is dependent on the frame rate. And with 120, doing the green hand glitch is a lot tighter. So we'll try to do some sick maneuvers on the vent again. Aw. Yeah, the collision there is very thin, so you have to like be very particular with your movements to be able to make it across. If I don't get this, I'll just do this intro section as normal. So go one more go, and then we'll just do it normally. Okay, cool. A little rusty with this method in particular, so this might be a bit of a struggle bug moment here. Cool, made it across, alright. Bit of a struggle moment, but that's fine. Also, Poppy's gonna get dragged down here by Mommy Longlegs, so we can just ignore her.
I'm going to need
Because there's no invisible bar right here, right there, keeping you in the room, so you can just run into the pit without her. Alright, also, you might notice the fog is in a weird circle right here. It's just a weird graphics bug that can happen on certain computers, and it happens on this version in particular. Yeah, it happens a lot on this computer, but this particular version for some reason. So yeah, I did another rookie skip there to hang on to that electric node, and the bonus effect of this is that when you touch this electric pole, it brings up that little shield right there, but our arm can pass through it just fine. I'll power up both nodes right there, and now let us open this door. It's kind of sad that we don't get to do this version of thing, or this version of skip, because this allows us more time to relax, honestly. Because like I said, it goes from 0 to 100, like that. And
Yeah.
And we're going to do another, or at least I'm going to try to do another, not really a glitch per se, but it's just a little sequence break that lets us keep our right hand. Because what's supposed to happen right here is you attempt to interact with that scanner at the end of the hall, but in the middle of doing that, Mommy Longlegs snatches your hand out of midair. But if you shoot both hands at the same time, your hands stop just short, but still trigger Mommy's animation of grabbing your hand. So let's see if I can get that. There we go. So I shot both hands, stopped just short, but Mommy swung and missed anyway. This starts a pretty lengthy cutscene where, you know, like I said, she has Poppy held captive, and she basically outlines what the normal plot progression for the game is, and a similar structure happens in Chapter 3 as well. For Chapter 2, we have to complete 3 mini-games, which each are based off of childhood games that you watching might be familiar with. And surprise, surprise, there's ways to break all 3 of them, but we'll get to that when we get to that. I want to point out, by the way, while we're in this cutscene, that the voice acting, starting from this chapter and even into Chapter 3, is amazing. Like, I believe Elsie Lovelock is the person that voices Mommy Longlegs, and she does an amazing job. Same with all the voice actors in Chapter 3, honestly. Alright, so that cutscene's done, then we'll activate this lever to get into the play carrier proper. So this is the hub of the game where we access the 3 mini-games I was talking about. There's a few quick things we have to do here before we can actually do that, because I have to activate, before I start each of these mini-games, I have to activate these levers right here to actually start this little dialogue that precedes them. And while that dialogue is playing, because it is kind of lengthy, I'm going to go in here and activate the scanner on the other side of the train, because I want this door to be open later on so I can get to that door. You can't right see it right now, but it's right over there. To access the second minigame that we'll be doing later on. And also while I'm here, I'm going to grab that gold statue, again, following 100% rules. We're going into the first minigame, or at least the area before the first minigame, which is called Musical Memory. I'll explain the guts of how it works in a little bit. But I'm actually, for seemingly no reason, but it'll make sense later, I promise, I'm going to drag this ladder over here. This is a bit of a, not really convoluted, but a bit of a weird setup for a trick I'll be doing later on. Because once I actually do the Musical Memory game, I want to try to get over this little shutter right here. Keep in mind that gap between the shutters right there, because it'll be useful for a skip later involving Musical Memory. I'm also going to do a quick pause right here, because 1.0 Chapter 2 isn't the most stable game ever. As I mentioned on launch, this game was a little weird with bugs and whatnot. So there's a really big hitch right there when you go near this hole. So we just pause right there and runs to avoid that hitch, losing us time. And this is a good example of sequence breaking by getting the green hand early, because once we activate this lever right here, this machinery in this room starts up. This is apparently, I guess, where the hands of the grab pack are made, kind of like the blue and red hands we got earlier. And you're supposed to do this big puzzle where you try to make a green hand to add to the grab pack, and then along the way it breaks and you have to go up there to fix it. But you actually do not have to do that. Because since we have the green hand early, we can just activate this panel that's right over there. Just have to grab that gold statue that's up there, put in the tape, and like I said, because I have the green hand, we can just activate that panel right away. And yeah, we don't have to do the puzzle in that room. Pretty neat sequence break. Pretty easy to do, even if you don't do the crazy NAM skip that I did earlier. It's pretty simple to learn. So if you ever want to try it out on current patch or down patch, if you have access to that, pretty neat way to sequence break early on, and just like it's just fun to experiment with in general, even if you don't do like full speedruns of the game. All right, and going back to kind of like what I did in Chapter 1 with the red hand skip, where I did some platform or prop surfing. We're going to do that again with this cutout right here. Chapter 2 is these cutouts of the different mascots, where you can press a button, and it gives you a funny quote from them. But we're going to use this Bunzo is the name of this mascot. We're going to use this Bunzo bunny cutout. Well, I've gotten stuck. There we go. We're going to use this Bunzo cutout as a platform to get out of bounds here in this minigame. Because musical memory, the minigame, is kind of like Simon Says. We won't see it, obviously, because we'll be skipping it for the most part. But you can see these buttons surrounding the arena. Those light up with different colors, which person on these screens over here, that you can't exactly see, will say in a random order. And as you go on in the minigame, more and more colors / symbols get added to make it a bit more challenging. But we can skip that completely. In fact, by just jumping on this railing, we can go outside the arena. But we still need to trigger the minigame before skipping it for it to count as being cleared, even in categories where we have to complete all the minigames, including beating the game. So I'm just gonna jump off to the side there. Oh, didn't quite get it. I'm trying to do like not exactly a razor thin jump, but a pretty tight jump to trigger the cutscene at the start of musical memory. Basically trigger the start of musical memory without being in the arena. And it's a little, not too tight, but still kind of annoying to get right. Yeah. Yeah, if the shutter raises there, but the bridge doesn't lower, that's how you know you didn't get it. Now, what's tricky about this is you have to be just low enough to hit the trigger, I think, for the cutscene that's starting musical memory to trigger, but not low enough that you end up on the circle and trapped in the arena. Because once you hit the trigger, there's some invisible walls that spawn around the arena. Now, yeah, like I said, it's a bit of a tricky jump. Chapter 2 and 3 in particular have very tough tricks, even more so than some of the stuff you saw in Chapter 1, so some of these might take a few tries. Yeah, and that can happen sometimes as well. The cutout can just get stuck on the door. Do like a bit of a weird cursor lineup to try and get this ready. There we go. So now the cutscene for musical memory is starting. It basically just gives you a rundown of how the game works, like I just explained it earlier. And I'm going to try to bring this Bunzo cutout down to the floor. There we go. And you're not supposed to yank this vent cover off until after the minigame is done. But if you extend the arms of the grab pack out far enough, you can yank the vent cover off anyway. Looks kind of goofy, but it works. So we take it. And as you might expect, it's just a bunch of deep black out of bounds. But at the end of the minigame, there's this like kill trigger that just ends the game right there. Because to give a bit of context, I'll set up myself right there. There we go. To give a bit of context with this minigame, like I said, it's basically a weird Simon Says. And then after, I believe, the 4th round of the game, there's a kill switch that comes up from beneath the floor. You hit it, and then the game immediately ends. Or the minigame immediately ends, I should say. But if you are able to hit that button from out of bounds, because it is stored out of bounds beneath the floor, you can end the minigame right away instead of having to actually do the minigame. And I'm setting it up with the Bunzo I'm setting up this Bunzo cutout right here, even though the setup for it is kind of lengthy, because actually hitting that button is very hard since it's so deep out of bounds. So before we did a method, which I might try to show off, where instead of using this Bunzo cutout, we actually like YOLO fell into out of bounds space, hit the button, and hope and pray that grab pack physics pull us back up instead of just yeeting us out of bounds. But setting this up with the cutout is a lot more consistent because we can just grab the cutout over and get on top of the cutout as a platform. You can see the button right there, out of bounds. So shoot my hand. And the minigame's done, just like that. classic case of an end trigger for something being stored deep out of bounds. Unfortunately, because of also this is very loud. Holy crap! Unfortunately, because of having to reload, setting up the cutout, I'm gonna have to wait here for a second because now that ladder that I set up before won't be there. I'll try to continue it as normal. I should be fine. This is fine. Because the worry is I won't be able to make over that barrier. Or I can, but it's a lot tougher. So I'll grab that tape over there. This is the room right after musical memory. It's like a quick puzzle you'd have to do where you'd have to drag that crane over. And then using green hand mechanics, you take that dinosaur statue and lift it off the elevator that you can then use to get back to the hub after a quick electric puzzle after this one. But there's actually a way to skip that, which you'll see in a second. But first I have to do this quick detour. It's like I said, 100% rules. We have to grab all the gold statues. There's a gold statue on top of these boxes. You have to use a crane to get there. Just lift it up right around there. I'll jump up to this top platform. Got the gold statue there. Put the tape in. And the basis behind this is pretty simple. We're just going to use this little ball right here as a platform. There we go. And if you remember, we just finished musical memory. After completing each of the mini games in this game, Mommy Longlegs gives us a piece of paper to deduce a code that we basically like it's a 4-digit keypad code that we need to finish the game, basically. And for 100%, those are required. So again, following 100% rules, try to grab those. And this is another instance of the rookie skip, kind of like the first electric puzzle at the very start. Just lets us cheese this puzzle a little bit, makes it a lot simpler. And with this skip, you actually don't want to go, at least with the method I'm doing here, you don't want to go too fast. Because if you go too fast, like if you get to this room before Mommy finishes her dialogue, the switch that lets you activate the next minigame is not active. So you're essentially soft locked. But I think we've avoided it well enough here. Alright, so this setup is a little trickier because we can't use the ladder that we had before. As you can see, there's this spider web blocking our progress now. So instead of using the ladder to get over the shutter, we have to use this really weird combination of this plastic box and this Bunzo plush right here. And prop physics, as you'll see with all 3 chapters, that was fine right there, I think. There we go. Prop physics, which you'll definitely see later on in Chapter 3, are very weird and inconsistent, so getting these props to stand on top of each other can be a little finicky. But we got it right there. And there's our paper. Thank you, Mommy Longlegs. So let's go ahead and grab that. But we still need to go back over the shutter right here to get back to the main hub, to get back to the game station. So we're going to set up a barrel right here. And then next to that barrel, I'm going to set up a gas can. The game will let me grab it. That's fine, I'll just grab it right there. Try to grab it around the corner. There's a little time save, but it's a little tricky to do. Grab range on the grab pack can be a little weird sometimes. Actually, it might be enough. Yeah. So you might have noticed how I just like jutted up right there. That's a little weird thing that can happen if you crouch up against certain walls. Just get boosted up. Actually, I'll just reset up the gas can. It's probably safer. Come on. There we go. That's much better. So we got back over the shutter. Don't have to do musical memory, and we also don't have to wait for the dialogue. Because before, when we didn't exactly know how musical memory worked, we thought at the end of the mini game you'd have to wait for Mommy's speech and for her to drop down the paper before he could leave that room, but doing that method of it just reduces the downtime. Alright, and as you can see right there, because we waited for the dialogue to play out, this switch is active now. This switch is going to start our second minigame over there, Whack-A-Wuggy. As the name and even that fancy cutout right there, courtesy of Mob Entertainment, implies, it's a horror version of Whack-A-Mole. How the minigame works is, it's a classic game of Whack-A-Mole, but instead of moles, it's a bunch of mini versions of Huggy Wuggy, who is kind of the de facto mascot of Poppy, outside of the actual Poppy doll. And that's normally how the minigame works. You're trapped in this arena as these mini Huggies swarm you. It's, again, a classic game of Whack-A-Mole. Pretty straightforward, right? If you saw before when I was setting up the doors on the train, like this, there's this door that leads to what's supposed to be where you come out at the very end of the game to get on this train, which is where you enter the code to end the game. But you can actually just enter here early if you set up the receptors like I did before. And this slide has no collision, so you can just walk through right here. Boop, just like that. And you might be able to see these pipes sticking out right here. That's the Whack-A-Wuggy arena. And if you time a jump just right, you can land on these pipes. So let's see if I can do that. Nice. That jump isn't too precise, but it is. But if you jump late, it's tragic. So now we're on top of one of the pipes. This is one of the mini Huggies that we'd normally have to, whack into their holes during the game. And there we go. That counts as a whack. So I'll just spam both hands to the grab pack, kind of like this. Just get a bunch of hits in on this one Huggy Wuggy. I'm so sorry to this Huggy Wuggy. I'm bullying right now. This stream is definitely not paid to approve by this point. And there we go. The game ended. Surprise, surprise. Now, the reason that works is really strange. Basically, you're supposed to hit Huggy Wuggies, the mini Wuggies, I guess is more accurate, during that minigame 40 total times. Weird thing, though, it doesn't matter which Huggy Wuggy you hit during that, as long as you hit a mini Huggy total of 40 times during that, you'll clear the game anyway. So we just get on the Huggy Wuggy, bully it by just spamming grab pack hits on it, and that ends the mini game. There's also like an alternate version of that where you wait at the opening of the slide and hit the Huggy from far away. And it's slightly slower, but still pretty fast. And even when you're inbounds, you can hit Huggies 2 or 3 times in a single hit, essentially. Kind of like what I was doing when I was bullying that Huggy a second ago. And so even when you're inbounds, like just doing Whack-A-Wuggy normally, you can beat it pretty fast. Also, when I unpause here, pay attention to the window up there real closely.
Oh, you did.
Mommy Longlegs just slides into frame. It's a really weird animation that she does there. There's a lot of really funny things under the hood in this game, that one of which I'll try to show off later if I can. So we get our second part of the train code there. This just tells us the colors of the buttons we have to hit. And when I grab this paper here, I'm going to try to get my hand stuck in the door. If you shoot at the right time, you can get stuck in that trap door. And little fun fact, when your hands get stuck in props, like that little hatch, when the hand eventually comes back to you, because it does at some point, you do not have control of that hand anymore. And you can't regain control of that hand until you shoot the opposite hand. So you can have cases where you get both hands stuck in a prop, like that door or a wall, as we'll see later, and both hands come back, can't use them anymore, and you're soft locked. Because like I said in chapter 1, grab pack is a pretty key mechanic in this game. All 3 chapters. So definitely want to be able to use our hands, both in-game and in real life. So we'll run up these stairs, because we're about to come up to our next puzzle, and also our next big skip. Need to grab that gold statue right there. So I'm going to switch to 30 FPS, because for the first time in a little bit, we're going to do a hyper speed swing again. This one isn't a huge time saver, it just lets us move a bit faster down this hallway. Yeah, I kind of bonked the wall right there, but you get the idea, because the goal is to get to these stairs with a hyperspeed swing. Alright, so this is another case of, kind of like what I was doing with NAM skip at the start. I'm going to show this section normally, and then show the cool way to do it. Because what this section is, it's essentially a prolonged version of the electric puzzles we've been doing this whole series so far. In order to get a cart to break down this barrier. You don't actually have to use the cart, you just need to get the cart close enough. But nonetheless, we need to basically babysit this cart. So we need we'll be doing this electric puzzle to kind of open up the path to bring the cart along. Also say hi to Kissy Missy, who is probably every Twitch chatter's favorite mascot in this entire series. If you know, you know. Especially if you're in the Poppy community. Kissy, by the way, will reappear in Chapter 3, which is always nice to see. Like I said, Kissy is a pretty good mascot. Who, oddly enough, is one of the only monsters besides Poppy, I guess, in this entire series that helps us and doesn't actively try to hurt us. It's really weird. But yeah, with this puzzle, while this path through it isn't glitch-free, per se, there is a way to cheese it. Because with these electric nodes that you can use the green hand on, there's a bit of a, I'd say probably 10-second timer roughly. And once that 10-second timer is done, give it a quick second. There we go. The green, after a little bit, probably 10-15 seconds there, the charge of the green hand dissipates, and you have to replenish it by hitting these electric nodes, which there's plenty of in the puzzle, thankfully. But actually, you can just attach the green hand to one of the nodes, detach, and then immediately reattach, just like that. And you can re-grab the charge. So you can essentially reuse the charge and keep it throughout this whole puzzle. Which is super neat. Charge might have ran out though, so I might have to replenish it. We'll see. No, that's fine. Yeah, as long as you grab it before it fully runs out, you can still keep the charge going. Also, shouts to Jacksepticeye. There he is. You didn't get to see him at GDQ, but at least you get to see him here. Oh. Yeah, unfortunately, I ran out of charge.
Marcus.
Yeah, Marcus is a pretty cool character, and I'm not just saying that because he's portrayed by a YouTuber, but Marcus is a pretty cool character.
You see, I was heading home for the day when my AFRs realized that I left me bloody water.
Funny thing about that scene, I think when Mob Entertainment approached Jack to record that scene, they asked him to do the most exaggerated Irish accent possible, and he definitely delivered.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we'll just bring the cart. We don't need to bring the cart over the hill. We just need to bring it close enough, because that way we'll be able to go under here. Because normally there's an invisible wall right there, but bringing the cart close enough disables it, and we're able to crawl right under, which also gives us a checkpoint. But wouldn't you know, there's actually a way to skip that whole puzzle. Yep, the whole thing. And, I think this is the right one. Like I said, I have to replace checkpoints pretty often. But there is a way to skip that with some more hyperspeed swing trickery. And it's... I've said NAM skip earlier was pretty precise, but this one is really precise. Like, you have to start... You have to be in a pretty specific position, and on top of that, you have to start doing the hyperspeed swing button mashing at a specific time as well. It's not quite frame perfect, I don't think, but it is pretty darn close. Like, you have to do it in a very specific window, to the point where pause buffering is necessary to get it right. Alright. Hold on. I overshot it, yeah. So we want to get through this gap right here in the wall, where those wooden boards are. This barrel stays still. There we go. So we want to jump through this gap in the wall right here. There we go. Now we're out of bounds next to the staircase that we were just on to get up here. I want to shoot around right there with the jump to help, just so I can grab that grapple hook through the wall, because again, doing more hyper speed swing shenanigans. And I'm going to run over here, and I'm going to run forwards into this metal beam. And as I do so, my character will start moving to the left, because again, the grapple hook is trying to pull me towards it. And I want to wait until my my camera starts to dip down a little bit. There we go, dip down a little bit. And I want to try to set my cursor right there. And like I said, there's a bit of pause buffering here. So I'll hold jump, and as I'm holding jump, hit pause, and then let go of pause, or let go of jump when I'm in the pause menu. There we go. So you can see when I'm jumping right here, I don't have my hands on the space bar. The game is just doing this for me. Because when you hold an input, jumping or otherwise, for instance, it thinks you're holding that input the whole time, even if you're not pressing the button. So now the game is just bunny hopping all on its own, which makes timing this next part a lot easier. Because you can see when I hit the ground and I'm jumping up, right as I jump up, the grab pack and the camera in general does a little dip. I want to try a pause during that dip, which is a bit of a tight window. Okay, that looks about right. And then I'm going to unpause right here. And then as I'm unpausing, like literally right as I unpause, I'm going to try to do a hyperspeed swing to just rocket myself way high in the sky. And it's a bit harder in execution to do than the NAM skip, at least for me. So we will see how this goes. Yeah, I think I was a little off on the timing for that. Like I said, it's a very tight timing. It's not quite frame perfect, but it feels like it. By the way, I like to call that method of doing the skip the Ocarina of Time method, again, for apt reasons, because there's a lot of pause buffering to get everything to align right there. So I'll do the sticky keys jump. Alright, and I'll do the left click mash again. Oh, that looks good. There we go. So I just rock myself up in the sky with a hyper speed swing. To land on top of the tunnel right here. And there we go. We have skipped the cutscene where we'd have to watch Kissy Missy open the gates. And it greatly simplifies the puzzle too, because we don't have to do that keeping the green charge trickery that we did before. We can just bring this cart down the hallway. And yeah, I kind of messed it up though. I accidentally let go of the electric nub, so I'll just wait till this charges down again. Oh, I didn't notice that either. So there's Kissy. That's just her chilling, T-posing a little bit. Fun fact about Kissy Missy, actually, I believe she's just a literal reskin of Huggy Wuggy from Chapter 1, just with a different color fur. Because why not? They come up with better monsters in Chapter 2, or 3, for sure, but a little reskin doesn't hurt anything. Oh. No. Yeah, I had that weird hand disable thing that I talked about before, so I got a little discombobulated there, but we're fine. Alright, so that's berry done. By the way, we call that the berry skip because there's like a nameplate on that cart that says berry. It's a little tongue-in-cheek joke. Alright, and I'm going to showcase a really weird physics thing with these stairs right here. Oh, okay. So I was trying to show something off there. Didn't quite get it to happen, but that's fine. If you remember from before when I did the NAM skip, yes, that's what it's called. When I did the NAM skip and I landed on the out-of-bounds scenery in the game station, you'll notice that there was like a little heartbeat sound and the game went in slow motion. Chapter 1 and 2 of Poppy, thankfully you didn't have this in Chapter 3. That was weird. Chapter 1 and 2 has fall damage, basically. If you fall too far, the game does this thing where it plays in like super slow motion and it plays like a heartbeat sound, you know, to kind of simulate your legs being broken from falling so far. So we do a bit of trickery with some of these out of bounds. I'm not showing it off here because I'm just like showing this off. I'm not trying to be clean or anything. But we do some trickery with some of these crazier out of bounds to avoid that fall damage, because obviously that little fall damage slow motion bit wastes a bit of time. It's like probably 2-3 seconds each time it happens. So we generally try to avoid that in runs.
Jeez, have you played these before? You're so good.
So grab these since I had to reload a save file to do that, just to keep up with the 100% rules.
One last time.
Again, 100% for Chapter 2 is getting all the gold statues, getting all the VHS tapes like we got in Chapter 1, and there's also a few documents you have to grab along the way. Alright, so now we'll be going into statues, although I have to change my FPS right there. We're going into statues next, which is keeping with the theme of childhood games, but horror. It's a horror version of Red Light, Green Light. Think of it kind of like more like the Squid Game version of it, if you remember that. But the door to enter statues is not powered on, so we have to do, well, you know, another electric puzzle. But there's a pretty cool way to cheese this with the rookie skipping. Not really rookie skipping, but just like some clever platforming. Oh my gosh, can I get up here, please? There we go. Because the intention with this puzzle is you grab this node on the left, fall down, activate these 2 rods. Oh, wait, maybe it's not that one. Yeah, the intent is, you leave... Hold on. It's been a while since I've done this one casually, so it might take me a couple tries. Yeah. So the intention is you grab this first node, drop down, wrap it around these 2 holes right here, and then you activate that other node over there on the right. Well, turns out that actually you can just grab this left node, sneak along the ledge here, and activate this other node right here, but that having to wrap it around the holes. There we go. That'll power on the door to statues. Getting out of here, we're going to do another hyperspeed swing. I didn't quite get it because I bonked the shells, but you got the idea. So again, with statues, the whole deal is it's a horror version of Red Light, Green Light. And the entire time there's this enemy chasing you called PJ Pugapillar. Exactly what it sounds like, a mix between a caterpillar and a pug. Shouts to dog lovers out there. And every time, well, while the lights are on, you're able to move, I believe is how it works. Actually, no, it's when the lights are off, you're able to move. And then when the lights are on, you have to stop. Otherwise, PJ Pugapillar immediately jump scares you. But there's this block right here that we can push with 30 FPS physics. And the block is just high enough so you can jump on this wall and not wait for the opening speech.
Welcome to statues.
And that's not all, because we can do a hyper speed swing to get over this really slow ball pit. And I'll do some weird crouch trickery next to this wall, kind of like I was demonstrating earlier with the musical memory skip. So that's me get over this wall, otherwise I'd have to go through this really cramped slide. And there's a gold statue in here I'm going to try to grab. Or shy? Okay, that's actually a kind of tricky angle to get. And yeah, you can just go to the end of statues. It's just over there where that light is. But I'm not actually going to go to the end. I want to showcase some weird stuff with this minigame instead. Because a trick that Mob Games does to make chases tense in this chapter, and even other chapters of the game, is they make sure that the enemies are always on you. But the way they actually achieve that is by making the enemies keep pace with you. So if you're going really slow or walking, then yeah, they'll be behind your back, and even if you're running, they'll be on your back. But if you go to the end of the minigame and let them do their thing, then they zoom. And hopefully we'll get a good showcase of that here. I was planning to do some free cam shenanigans to show this off, but yeah, this is cooler, I think. So it's a little hard to see right now because the lights are off, but soon enough you should see PJ come over the blocks right there. Oh, there he is. It's a little hard to see, but he's going for it. He knows that GDQ is coming up. He wants to see this final schedule. Yeah, there's some weird stuff that can happen here too. You can like get caught in the blocks and just like loop around the ball pit for a little bit. Yeah, that's enough of that. I'll just go ahead and do that whole minigame as normal. There is another method actually for this that I want to try to show. I haven't actually done this method proper before, so if I actually get this will be something. But what I'm basically going to try to do is go to the end of statues like I just did right there, but then go back to the very start, because similarly to when I did that weird crouch glitch to get over the slide in the middle of statues, I'm going to try to do the same thing on the door at the start of statues. And what's tricky about trying to do this method of it in particular is that it's very time sensitive, because you are on a time limit of the opening speech. Because once the opening speech is done, PJ's AI is activated and he gets you and you get jump scared. So just do the block trick again to get over the wall. Oh. Not quite.
Welcome
there we go.
To statues. This advanced obstacle.
Ooh, nice. I got right over the slide right there. That's cool. With this as well, you want to be very careful with the hyperspeed swing in the middle right there, because if you go too high, the next area after this room right here will not be loaded, and you're essentially stuck there. It's 120 FPS again, so that the physics actually behave properly. Alright, so I haven't tried this properly, so let's see. Oh, actually, hold on, it needs to be at 30 FPS for the hyperspeed swing, I forgot. You switch FPS so often in this run, you forget to go to the proper frame rate, and then you try to do like a hyperspeed swing in 120, and then you're like, what am I doing? I've brain farted and done that a lot before. Come on. Work me, buddy. I could probably actually just run back through there instead of doing a hyperspeed swing. I'll try that this time. See if it works better. Yeah, I'll give this like a couple tries and then I'll just move on to the rest of the game. It should be fine. I don't think I'll miss the low trigger. It's not going to matter anyway, because I'll be going back to this area. Yeah, where you get warped with that little crouch zip trick, I guess, is a little random, but generally behaves most of the time. Alright, cool, so we broke through the window, and then I'll go back. I wonder if this will work better actually doing it with the right hand. Let's see. Like I said, I haven't done this trick properly before, so might mess it up a little bit. So I'll just eat the ball pit. And then see if I can hyperspeed swing to get back in time.
They called me Mommy because I was the closest thing they ever had to one. But then comes the game. And never come back.
Oh, come on.
They left Mommy to die alone. Mommy didn't deserve.
Come on. Come on.
You worked here. So if anyone deserves to...
Yeah, I think I'll just go ahead and move along. I'll get to a checkpoint that's right after that. So yeah, it happens. So like I said, I haven't done that properly in a run or even playthrough before, so we'll just move along. Yeah, the idea is you go up to the door at the start of statues with another hyperspeed swing, and you do a crouch zip to get past the door. It's a little tricky though, because like I said, you're on a pretty strict time limit with that, and you have to do a pretty rough hyperspeed swing to get past it, or to get there in time. I also skipped past it here because I did a checkpoint reload just to keep the show moving. But I mentioned before about the fall damage animation losing time. You get one of those here just by default, falling down this hole. So at the bottom here on a run, as soon as we get the fall damage, we hit an autosave. So as soon as we get the fall damage, reload and then keep going to avoid the fall damage animation. And this isn't quite a hyperspeed swing, but it is a neat little movement trick with the grappling hook.
Where did you go?
I didn't quite get it because I bonked on the lamp, but the idea is you swing across with that grapple hook, let go at the right time so that you don't bonk the ceiling, and then use a bunny hop to preserve that momentum. Because what this is essentially us escaping through the back lots of the game station to get back to the main hub and leave after finishing statues. So it's a bit of a run to get there. So if there's anything you want to blurt out, anything you want to plug, this would be a good time because it's not a whole lot happening here.
Yeah, just if you haven't missed out on any of our other shows or our events, like we just had some new shows start this week. If you've missed out on any of that, you can go check out the VODs over at youtube.com/gamesdonequick. Also, just in general, your subs, Prime Gaming subs, gift subs, bitch cheered on the GDQ Twitch channel do help support the GDQ Hotfix. So if you like watching these glitch showcases, these special showcases, any of our daily content, weekend specials, anything like that, subscribing to the channel really does help. And also you get access to our emotes. You can chat with other subscribers during our replays, which are sub only, the replays that we do after every show. So yeah, super helpful if you can do any of that. It seriously really does help us put all this content on for you.
Yeah, I would personally recommend Crosshair, I think is what it's called.
Yeah, Crosshair.
Yeah, a lot of good shooter games on that in the future. But yeah, we're in water treatment now, like I was mentioning before with the escape sequence. This is kind of the in-between area for us getting back to the hub. And there's a quick puzzle here involving this these bridges that you can see over there, but it's pretty simple, actually. You just have to hit this rotate bomb 90 degrees button 3 times. So 1, 2, and then 3. That will align these bridges in the perfect way so you can go in there to do a quick puzzle. It's a fetch quest thing they'll get to in a second. And then come back here. Again, though, keeping with 100% rules, I'm going to grab that tape. There we go.
Jimmy, your work is playtime.
We're getting some lore right there, but on a normal stream, I would replace that with You've Been Gnomes. Though I don't think GDQ audience wants to be gnomes, so we'll just not do that. And then this puzzle's pretty simple for the most part. You just have to hit those colored buttons on the way up. Because the key to get out of here is one of these Bunzo dolls, which I'll grab as soon as it falls down right there. There we go. Just grab one of them. That's our key to get out here. Because similarly to towards the end of Chapter 1, when we put that cat doll in the scanner, we're going to do the same thing. Oh, hi. He just came out of nowhere. Similarly to the cat doll that we put in the scanner in Chapter 1, we're doing the same thing with this Bunzo doll right here. Apparently you can grab more than one of those. Interesting. And yeah. But in order to get back to the scanner to put the Bunzo doll in, we'd have to move the bridge like I showed you earlier. But actually, there's a bit of invisible collision surrounding this water here that the bridges are spinning on top of. And if you jump right here, just hugging the railing, you can land on this sign and jump forward on the railing. Pretty simple, not too hard to execute. It's actually a pretty easy skip to learn, not gonna lie. And then we can run on that invisible collision, so we can get right to the other side without having to move the bridge. Use our Bunzo ticket to get out of there. And keeping with the theme of this game having electric puzzle, or just generally puzzle after puzzle, got another one right here. And there's a pretty funny cheese for this one, because there's this electric node right here, and I forget how you have to access it normally. I think it's some trickery involving... Hold on, let me check right here. Yeah, I forgot. Actually... Oh, there it is. So you have to activate that barrier with this electric pole and then grab the electric node. But there's actually a way to grab the electric node through the wall. First off, though, we can just grab that VHS tape through the wall by placing our cursor at that little nail right there. And if we position our cursor right around there, there we go. We grab the electric node right there through the wall, so we don't have to bring down that barrier. And we activate this green node, do a rookie skip on that electric node, and then activate both these poles. Do it quick enough, and there we go. There's the puzzle. So, before we move on, I'm actually going to do the first patch switch of the showcase, because we were just playing on 1.0 to start with, because that's where a lot of the really cool stuff is. But it turns out later patches have some cool tricks too, because about 7 months ago, I think, we did a big community challenge where we ran first 2 games, both on the current patch, in a row. And in the process, and up to that point, we hadn't ran current patch very actively. So we did end up doing a big glitch hunt for the later patches, which is what I'm on right now, to basically find how we can break it despite some of the stuff they patched. One of which I'll show later. But this one, I'm showing it now because we're just right here. It's a way to skip a cutscene involving Mommy Longlegs, because, actually, let me do this puzzle real quick. Because after we finish this puzzle, there'd be a cutscene where Mommy Longlegs looks all menacingly at you and challenges you to a game of hide and seek. And if you don't leave the room before the countdown and that cutscene is done, you get jump scared just immediately. But there's a way to skip past that cutscene. And the setup for it is a little tricky, but I was practicing it just before the stream, which is always a good sign. So we'll see if I'm able to get it here. The premise behind this, as you might have guessed, it's involves hyper speed swing. But to start with, I'm going to place my green hand, my right hand, on that corner of this grate right here that's popped out. And then I'm going to crouch into here, go in this vent. Right around that little square that I'm moving my cursor at, what's going to happen is it'll break off below me. And then what's supposed to happen is you fall and watch the cutscene where Mommy Longlegs counts down from 10 to start her own twisted version of hide and seek. But if we do a hyperspeed swing, which is a little easier on this patch, which is why I switched to it, we can get out of bounds after breaking open the vent. And it's a little tricky to set up because you basically only get one try for it. Because at the bottom there's an autosave that you hit in the process of doing this. So I'm just going to try to go for it and see what happens. So the vent will break open. We'll get a bit of air time. Oh, actually, hold on. I need to be at 30 FPS for this. Thank goodness I remembered to switch. I'll start pulling. We'll get a bit of fall damage right there. We'll get yoinked right back up by the vent. Yeah, not quite it. I got pushed backwards a little bit there. What I wanted to have happen... Hold on, let me find the save for that room. What I wanted to have happen there is for the momentum from that grapple hook to propel me forward, and I got pushed backwards a little bit there. So you gotta retry that. Just do this puzzle again. So I'll set my hand on the corner of that grate. Same mid-air momentum trickery. Start pulling myself. We'll get the fall damage. Well, we didn't get the full skip, but you get the idea. That's the door that's supposed to open after Mommy starts her countdown. And we just went right over it and avoided the cutscene. That's not the full potential of it, though. Because if you... I'm trying to land... Because if you land on a beam that's out of bounds right there, you might have seen it very briefly. You can do another hyperspeed swing to skip even further into the level. And it's crazy if you manage to get it, because like you're basically doing a hyper speed swing in complete darkness for the most part. Oh, by the way, this trick is called a GGD skip, I believe is what it's called. I don't know why it's called that. That's what the community just decided to name it, so we'll go with that. Which, by the way, speaking of good skip names, we don't use it in the run anymore, but there's a more primitive version of the NAM skip I did before that we call, and I kid you not, Fortnite God 123 skip. Because the person who found it was named Fortnite God 123. Don't ask me why. Yeah, we'll try to set up the hyperspeed swing. Hopefully we get a good angle with it this time. Not quite. I got thrown at a bad angle again. What I'm trying to do is land on that middle beam that's out of bounds. But with the nature of this being, weird physics trickery, you can get really weird angles in trying to do that particular hyperspeed swing. Because it's like the berry puzzle skip I did before, where instead of a horizontal hyperspeed swing, like NAM skip, it's a vertical hyperspeed swing, which is a lot trickier setup than a horizontal one. Just because you have to rely on the upwards momentum of the grapple hooks so much to do most of the work. There are ways to manipulate it, of course, as you saw there, by giving ourselves airtime, but it's still pretty tough to manage. It only gets worse in Chapter 3, as you'll see later. Okay, I didn't quite mean to go down that early, but that's fine. Oh, I'm getting a weird angle again. So I'll give this like a couple more tries, given that we technically already saw it to fruition before. And then if I don't get it properly, we'll just continue on. And after the last time I try this, I'll show what the cutscene is supposed to look like when you just sit through it normally. Also, I'm doing a little trick here where as I'm crouching into these vents, I'm holding run just to give myself a slight movement boost. It's a very minor time save over the course of the run. Okay, cool. We landed on that beam. But now it's the hard part because we're going to grab that beam way over there. And we're going to do a hyper speed swing into complete darkness and hope we make it. Kinda? It's a little dicey, because now I'm kind of stuck on this pipe. There we are. So we ended up way further into the level next to these stairs. This is like the hallway at the bottom of the stairs from where we skipped over the door. That method doesn't save much over just going over the door, but it does give us a nice shortcut later into the level. Yeah, I'll go ahead and show you what that cutscene looks like normally. Just gotta load a checkpoint for that. Tape right there, and then grab the node. Come on, buddy. There we go. I just had to find the key for that. Alright, and like before when I fell down the pit, I would do a quick checkpoint reload there to avoid the fall animation, but not faster RTA, so I'm just not going to show that. Oh, and also for most runs, speaking of FPS trickery, for runs of both this and Chapter 3 later, the maximum frame cap you can set the game at is 120. You can see it goes up to 240 there, but we typically keep it at 120 just to keep it fair. Because once you start going up to, in this case, 240 or even 144, physics with stuff like the grapple hook gets really weird, and most people who run this game, their computers can't reach that frame rate, at least not easily. So we just cap it at 120 across the board to keep it fair.
I asked you to play fair, and you cheated! I hate cheaters!
Also, when Mommy talks to us like here, I like to just not move and let Mommy push herself into the camera, because it's like we're getting a fisheye view of her face. Also, I'm going to try to do a funny here when I fall down the stairs.
9.
Alright, cool.
6. 5. 6.
So, you notice right there, of course, when I fell down, I got the slow-mo fall damage animation. As I mentioned before, Mommy does her little countdown right there. She goes down from 10. But if you get a fall damage animation during that, obviously it slows down time. So that messes up her countdown, and she repeats 6 and 5 during the countdown. It's not useful for runs or anything, it's just a really weird effect. And we get to what is typically the last big skip in a run of this, 100% or otherwise. Because normally you go into this little opening right here, which will lead into a big series of chases with Mommy Longlegs. But we get to skip that entirely, and it's 100% friendly because we don't skip any collectibles with it. What we do for this is we just jump on top of this barrel or bot. Actually, wait, hold on. Why does this not have collision? It's usually supposed to have collision. Weird. That's weird. That's fine, I can just drag these boxes up to get up there anyway. Because the idea is we want to get on top of this do not enter door. Just like that, then we'll crouch, which will give us just enough oomph to get through the store, which is not entirely solid. Now we're out of bounds. And conveniently enough, that room just down there is where the end of the mommy chase is. You might even heard that machinery activate just now. That indicates that we've hit the checkpoints, and I'll also grab that gold statue that's stuck in the vents. Just drop down here. There we go. And right down here is where the end hallway is, leading to this big confrontation with Mommy, which we'll see in a second. And yeah, that skips all the chases with Mommy Longlegs. One of the biggest time saves we found pretty early on in speedrunning this game. And we have a couple big tricks up our sleeve. This first one, or the second one, this first one, it isn't useful for runs again, but it is pretty weird. I want to real quickly shout out the YouTuber Horoscopes, because he did a video describing different ways you can break the chase sequences with Mommy at the end of the game. And as soon as I saw this one, I was like, I have to show this off. So what we're going to do for this is just open the doors normal, and we're going to go down this long hallway right here. What's going to happen is we'll go up to that receptacle down there, activate it with our blue hand, and then as soon as we activate it, Mommy is going to start chasing us down the hallway. And it's supposed to be this really tense thing where you get in the door at the last second just before Mommy gets you. But there's a way to break this in a pretty funny way. Because what the intent, obviously, is you're supposed to, get in the door at the last second. It's really tense, because, there's nowhere else to go. But if you look right here at the sides of the hallway, there's these gaps that Mob Entertainment left in, which we're going to be making use of here. So we'll start the scanner, Mommy will start chasing us. If we squeeze ourselves over here, she doesn't attack us. And you can see the effect of what I was talking about with the enemies scaling their movement speed, because she just slowed down right there when she got close to us. And of course, because she's a ghost, she just walks right through. But where's Mommy, you might ask? Because it seems like she's screaming in pain a little bit. She's right there just having a moment. And there she goes. Just kidding, she's right there. So what actually happens during this chase sequence is there's two Mommy Longlegs that spawn during that. To create the illusion of Mommy being right behind you, when you go in this room where that switch is, also that's a really interesting noise, to kind of simulate Mommy almost getting you, when you go into this room with the switch, that first Mommy that's chasing you down the hall despawns, and then the second Mommy that just got killed right there runs in and gets killed in the grinder. Pretty silly, and it's a pretty fun party trick you can do at home, because it's really simple to set up. You just have to crouch in that corner, like I did, and then wait for mommy to go past you. Alright, so like I said, we have one more trick left up our sleeve for chapter 2. Because, like I was kind of alluding to when I did musical memory, there's that slide you go down after getting the last bits of the train code, which we will be getting because 100% rules. But there's actually a way to skip past going down that slide and just go right to the train after getting the last 2 collectibles. And this barrel right here, I keep calling it a barrel, it's a gas can. This blue gas can right here that I have my grab pack attached to is going to be our guinea pig for this. Because this gas can is a very special gas can. Because it turns out this gas can, and there's very few props that are like this, this gas can has very special properties where it ignores the laws of physics. And you'll see what I mean, because we'll try pulling the barrel towards us, or gas can, and it just does that. It just floats in midair. I have no answers for that. It's just broken because it is. And we're gonna babysit that barrel as we go up these stairs to the end section of the game. And as I do so, I'm gonna try to do some platforming on these railings right here. Just a little shortcut to get up here a bit faster. So I ended up doing a brief bit of prop surfing. That was weird. Now we'll put that last tape in, and we'll drag this barrel with us. And the premise behind this is in the room where we grab the last 2 collectibles, and also free Poppy, incidentally enough, is there's some invisible walls surrounding these stairs that you'll see to my right coming up. Right over there. Those walls prevent you from going over the stairs normally, and you have to go down the slide to get to the train. But it turns out you can actually, if you get on that tiny barrel, or I keep calling it a barrel, it's a gas can. If you get on this gas can, like so, and then pull yourself up with it, it'll go pretty high. I didn't quite get what I wanted there with that prop surf, so let's try that again. And once you flub up the prop fly of this gas can, it can be a little annoying to reset it up. So let's get a good prop fly this time. That might be good. There we go. We're able to walk over the invisible walls surrounding those stairs, and we can just go right to the train. Don't even have to take the slide to get down here. Alright, and now we'll be going to the end of the game. We have to activate this code on the train. I'll just activate, or put the symbols in the correct order and make them these colors, red, yellow, and then red, blue. And then we have to input these 4 numbers right here. The code that you have to enter to activate the train, also let me change FPS right here just so it looks a little less choppy because I was still at 30 FPS from before. We have to input a 4-digit code right here, of course with the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4. And the code that you have to enter here to activate the train is entirely random, and it's a 4-digit code. So there's like 4 possible numbers you could enter. Or like 24 different possible combinations to enter in the train for it to activate. And it's random which one you get. Thankfully though, we did one of the papers that we get right here, part 3 order sequence, just tells us the code outright, which in this case is 1423. Entering that fast can be a little tricky because like there's a very slight input delay with interacting with the buttons. And we'll pull this lever. That starts the train. I mentioned before about how if your hands get stuck in a wall, I won't show it here just for the sake of time, but I mentioned before how if you shoot your hands at a wall, and then eventually when they come back, you aren't able to use them, you can shoot your hands into the wall here next to this fan. You can see right now that I can't use it. My left hand. I'm pressing left click, can't use my blue hand. But as soon as I press my right hand, I'm able to use it again. If you shoot your left hand, or both hands here, into the wall, you're not able to use them when they return. And that's bad in this case because the end condition for the game and the run is pulling this big red lever right here. And obviously, if your hands aren't active, you cannot pull the lever. You can't even press use to use the lever. You have to use your hands to physically pull the lever down. So, yeah, if your hands get stuck like that, you're soft locked. And it's at the very end of the run too, which is particularly tragic. Yeah.
So sad.
Yeah. If you want a free way to kill a run, there you go.
I had so much time to think and reflect. Time to figure
So yeah, this it's a pretty lengthy sequence to end the game. It's like a 2.5 minute auto score roughly, where you're forced to wait while Poppy does her little spiel here, which is kind of alluding to future events that may or may not happen in later chapters. Eventually the train is going to crash here. We just have to wait for that to happen. Real quickly, while we're in this train, I just want to give a few quick shout-outs, mainly to Quincy, who, even if they're not watching, they are actually who got me into this game and taught me 100%. So she's been super, and in general she's been super supportive of my speedrunning efforts, Poppy or otherwise. So I just want to give quick shouts to Quincy right there, and also all the other Poppy runners that grinded chapter 1 and 2 when they were brand spanking new. And time for runs to normally be when I pull this lever right here. There we go.
GG.
Yeah. Okay, we crash in a oh, what's up?
No, you go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was gonna say, so compared to like the first game, this one was packed with stuff.
Oh yeah, and it only gets better or worse depending on how you look at it. With chapter 3, which we will be doing right after this, so stay tuned.
Yeah. Do you have anything you want to say on 2 before we close off, or do you want to just start wrapping up for 3?
Yeah, I think we can just move on to 3.
Perfect. So we are going to take a quick break, everyone, while we get chapter 3 set up. Back in just a few minutes here. Just a quick reminder, you can go to gamesonquick.com/hotfix to check out our season 4 schedule. So we've got a bunch of new shows. We mentioned a few already. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Games on Quick Hotfix. Today, we're showcasing some glitches in Poppy Playtime, all 3 chapters. We're about to jump into the 3rd one. I'll hand it right over to you.
Yep. All right. I am Nerd Squared again. A little bit ago, I did glitch showcases of both chapter 1 and 2. We're doing a showcase of the whole trilogy. We're going to close it off with the most recent one that came out literally this year, like 10 months ago, in fact. If you thought some of the physics stuff that I just did in chapter 2 was crazy, you're in for a treat, because they upgraded this game, I think, to Unreal Engine 5, whereas the other 2 games were in Unreal Engine 4. And in some weird way, they ended up changing the physics in the process, which results in much crazier skips, even more so than what you saw in chapter 2. So definitely be on the lookout for those. I do want to point out this green thing in the top left. That is my frame rate counter. You also see a bit clearer one in the top right here when I actually boot into the game. Frame rate is very important in this game and in the other 2 chapters because of physics stuff. The physics are dependent on the frame rate, and that is especially apparent in this chapter because there's a lot of prop surfing in this, which you'll get to see when we get into it. Another important thing to point out under graphics, I have the view distance on Ultra. That is required for a trick a bit later into the game, because the idea is you want to have the area that you're doing the out of bounds in for that trick loaded all at once, but we'll get to the weeds of it when that trick actually comes up. So I got a couple of tricks. Again, theme with these chapters are just starting off with crazy stuff right away. I got a couple of tricks to show off here in the intro, because after we skip this quick cutscene, because during this little intro cutscene right here, where Catnap tosses us down the trash chute. This is right after Chapter 2 ends. During this whole cutscene, you actually have control as soon as the cutscene starts, because again, we're on a down patch version. So, if I just press up, left, right here, you can hear some voices activated in the background. At the start, we're in this little trash compactor, and pressing any of your movement keys starts that little trash compactor. So, the idea behind these first two skips is, or at least the idea behind this first skip that I'm about to try to do, is I'm going to move at a certain time during the intro cutscene to start the trash compactor, and then while that cutscene is playing, I'm going to try to do some blind movements. Yes, you heard me right. Blind movements while the cutscene is playing. Oh, wait, hold on. Yeah, I forgot to change audio. My bad. We avoid the scuff for the most part, and then that happens, but it's fine. Got to us eventually. Catnap scratched my audio cable, I guess. But yeah. What I'm going to try to do during that intro cutscene is do some blind movement to get a bit further in the trash compactor while the cutscene is playing. And it's a little tough because I have to do blind movement, so let's see if I can cook here. Oh wait, actually I did it a bit too early. Because I want to start moving here at a specific visual cue. It's when Catnap puts down his right paw right in front of the trash chute. So, 1, 2. I think I got it, maybe? I don't think I got it. So let's see where I ended up. I'm probably right in all the trash. Yeah, there we go. Gonna get squished. So you get the idea. I do like a bit of counting right there to try to time it. I move pace of 5 forward, roughly, pace of 5 to the left, and then I just hold down right and hope I make it. You'll know I got it because you'll see a tutorial prompt in the bottom. I don't think I got it. Yeah, I think my problem is I'm moving not either too far forward or not enough forward. I'm just not getting on the ramp. And see, with this being blind movement, obviously you have to do like very precise counting or very precise timing with your movements, of course, to be able to make it. And you operate. What makes this? Actually, one second. Okay, let's see. Yeah. What makes this even harder, too, with it being blind movements, is you get no audio feedback at all during this. You get no audio cues with, like, your footsteps or anything. So you have to go entirely off counting in your head to get the movement right.
Which is really brutal.
Yeah, it is. You know what, let's lab it out live to get through the stuff, because I thought for sure I had a movement method that worked. Because this is what it's supposed to look like, but just imagine this with no visual feedback. And And outside of like one trick you'll see later on, this is easily the hardest trick in the game. So, if we get this out of the way, we're good. I think I'm moving too far forward is the issue. Lots of glitch hunting. One of the biggest skips you'll see later on, to respond to your comment, Jordan, was found literally on the day of release. And it's the biggest skip in the game. No, I don't think it... Oh, wait a second. I thought I didn't get it, and I got it. So you saw that tutorial prompts right there? Now I'm over here.
Yep. Nice.
Yeah, so let's just shave a few seconds off in the intro. But I'm going to show a different way of doing that we do now. Because that blind movement that I did right there is actually banned in runs now. Because as you might imagine, doing long stretches of blind movement with no audio feedback, that's a little impractical to do, especially in a category like 90%, for example, where you're grinding a lot to get good times. So, best to just not do that. So we just don't do that in runs, because it's just way too difficult to do, especially for long stretches. Like, you can do that blind movement I did for a lot longer, even doing things like moving the camera to get that grapple hook that I was next to, but it's really tight. So instead of doing the blind movement during that cutscene, I'm gonna wait for a count of 7 here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. What I was waiting for right there was the sirens blaring in the background. I waited for those for a count of 7 as soon as my character popped into view. And it seems really weird doing that, but it's for a good reason. Because there's these pistons I'll be running on in the background here. And those pistons start moving as soon as the cutscene starts. It's kind of a global cycle sort of deal. And by waiting for around 7 seconds, it lines up the pistons so that they're already in good positions when I get out of that little grapple at the start. And there's a couple of different ways to do this next room. I'm going to do the crazy out of bounds method first. Which is tagging this checkpoint and just running back, because we're going to do our first proper prop surf of the run. And something to keep in mind with Chapter 3, I mentioned how it gets even crazier in Chapter 2, for better or for worse. Because, you know, with this game, they upgraded engines to Unreal Engine 5, I believe. And in the process, the physics for props changed. And there's not a real proper way that I can explain the difference other than they just behave a lot more wildly. So compared to, say, the hyperspeed swings, where the physics were, like, relatively consistent, provided you knew the inputs and, like, where to point the camera, in Chapter 3, the prop physics are just pure random, and you kind of have to roll with the punches. And the first example of this is right here, because we want to get out of bounds through this little hole right here next to the ladder. And you can use any prop for this that you can grab, but I find the chair here is most consistent. So I'm going to try pulling it up against myself right here. And like I said, it's very wild to try and control, because as you can see, the chair likes to jostle around a lot. And sometimes, since you're standing on this rubble to set up the chair, sometimes the chair can just push you off the rubble, and you have to reset this up. But yeah, we have the chair under our feet now, kind of like when we set up the yellow tub all the way back in Chapter 1. And the idea here is I'm going to set myself up here on top of the chair while dragging it with one hand, and I'm going to use the second hand to actually pull myself up with it. Because essentially, most of the prop surfs in this run are going to be us riding props like a magic carpet, more or less, to fly in the air. So just like that. I'm going to rub myself up against the ladder to make sure the chair doesn't jostle around while you're flying on it, because that can happen. And there we go. We are outside of the vents. We are now out of bounds. This next trick I'm about to do is called the first area skip. Now, pretty straightforward. You skip a tutorial section in the first area, or the intro of the game. And there's a couple of different ways you can do this. One method you can do, which is a little slower but a lot more consistent, is you can hover out of bounds with the chair, like I just did, and then you run the rest of the way without using the chair. But the faster and honestly much swaggier method of this is to set yourself up on top of the chair. This requires a pretty specific angle for it to work. And in this particular it depends on the orientation the chair is standing in. And in this case, where it's back facing down, I just put the camera in the center right there while both hands are grabbed onto it. And I mentioned at the start how FPS is very important. For prop surfs like this one I'm about to do with the chair, each individual one works better at different frame rates, and it's different for each prop. For this particular brand of prop surf, where we're wanting to go very high with the chair, we'll see how high in a second, we want to go all the way down to the new lowest FPS cap. In Chapter 2, we could go as low as 30. But in Chapter 3, we can go all the way down to 15, and that is necessary for this trick to work, as choppy as heck as the game is going to look. True, Sierra. But yeah, we're going to go all the way down to 50 FPS. Chair is in a good spot. And then the idea is we're just going to drag the chair under our feet. Since we're at such a low FPS, the chair is going to jostle around pretty wildly, so I'm going to try to move the camera in order to get it to orient properly. Alright, after a little bit, I'll walk backwards off the chair and jump while we're at such low FPS, surfing on the chair. As you can see, that rockets us up very high in the sky, which is good, because we want to get over here to this wall. I'll go back to 60 FPS, so that is not super choppy. We want to go over here to this wall. This is essentially at the end of where all the tutorials are, and the reason for that is because there's a checkpoint right next to this wall, just on the other side, by hitting that, by just touching the wall or even just running on top of the ceiling at the edge there. Reload in. There we go. Now let's get right back in. We don't have to do all the tutorial puzzles at the start. That looks fun, right? It only saves 30 seconds. But it looks cool, and it's necessary to get top times, so might as well show it off. I'm gonna load another checkpoint, so because I want to go back to the room where I was near the pistons, where I tagged the checkpoint, just to show what that area looks like normally. Because there's another trick in the room that I skipped, so. What? Huh. That's weird. Apparently I don't have a save for that. That's fine, we'll just move on. Actually, you know what? Actually, change of plans. I'll just start from the beginning. Might as well. It's like right. The checkpoint that I'm trying to get back to is right at the start anyway. Wait. Wrong game. I almost booted into Chapter 2 again. I don't know. It just draws me in, man. Also, for some weird reason, when you... This might just be a down patch thing, but when you boot up Chapter 3 for the first time, the game is just excessively loud, and changing a setting fixes it for some reason. Now the game is mad at me? Well, not as mad as Chapter 2 hard locking when you go too far out of bounds. Let's watch this cutscene again and get back to where we were. 4, 5, 6. By the way, there's like more optimal setups for setting up the pistons. I go for a count of 7. Some other top runs in like any percent go for a count of 10 right there on the sirens. It varies between every runner, but I found that 7 counts with the siren works best for me. Alright, so we'll just do this room normally. We have to do some platforming on these pistons. Now try to go for a boost here when the second piston comes up. There we go. I just jump on it as soon as it comes up. And that gives me a little boost upwards. You do have to be kind of careful because above these pistons are death triggers that you can very easily hit if you bounce on them like that. So, gotta be a little careful there. Also, for some weird reason, speaking of the FPS counter, for some weird reason, the FPS counter, the FPS it shows is one below what the actual FPS is at. Don't know why it does it like that. Alright, so we have a quick electric puzzle, but with a new mechanic that was added for Chapter 2, or Chapter 3, I mean. Of course, we have the hand scanners like we had before, but they introduced these batteries that we put in their respective slots. It's a pretty common puzzle mechanic in this game. And for this particular puzzle, it's pretty simple. You know, it's the first time you're introduced to batteries as a puzzle mechanic. So you just take these 2 batteries, put them in these 2 slots. There's a way to abuse the, I guess, hit detection of these battery slots to make it so you can only put in 1 battery and activate both slots. And the way to set this up, for this one anyway, just crouch up, walk up against this left one, and edge the cursor against that vent up there in a pretty precise way, then drop the right one. See if we got it? Nah, not quite. The idea is both of these wires would light up at once, and I put that one in, and it would let me skip a tutorial after this puzzle. Because what's supposed to happen in this next room is we'll get a call from Ollie, who's kind of our assistant character that helps us out throughout the game. We start this phone call right here, and then a battery will drop out from that tube, and we put in this receptacle. But if we got the battery glitch, which I guess is what I'll call it, from before, we're able to put it in this slot and skip this whole phone call. So we appropriately call that phone call skip if you manage to get that. Also, there's the train from the end of Chapter 2. He kind of wrecked it pretty bad.
I guess that's where Catnap found you.
It's also, it's not a glitch, it's just a minor shortcut. You can run on that rubble for a bit of a time saver. Otherwise, you'd have to go all the way over there.
Our mission.
You jump on this rubble.
Together, we can save a lot of people.
So we'll go over here to activate the power, because we need to take a tram to get to our main hub for Chapter 3, which is called the Playcare. And this chapter, in addition to the batteries, also introduces these electric poles. I swing them around with Q and E. You just have to orient themselves in the correct direction to activate 2 nodes at once, just like so. Pretty common puzzle mechanic, along with the batteries that you'll see in this game. And we come up to our first real big skip, like actual big skip outside of the first area skip. It involves this tram ride right here. I won't show it here just for the sake of time, but should you go into this tram, there is I think around a 2 minutes, basically unskippable cutscene where you wait in the tram and then you get introduced to, exposition of the Playcare, the main hub, and all the different locations you can go to. But you can actually skip that train ride entirely. And kind of similar to what I was doing with first area skip, it involves a prop surf with the chair. Thankfully, this one's a bit bigger than the other chair, so this one's a bit more cooperative. But it can still be kind of rough. We want to start ourselves up in this corner against the tram. The chair's in a pretty good position. What the orientation you don't want to see is it being in the opposite direction of where it is now, because it makes getting on top of the tram a bit trickier. But the idea is we're going to jump up and then let the chair fall beneath our feet and start pulling us up. There we go. Then we'll rub ourselves up against the tram to get on top of it. You need to crouch down and go to the left to actually get on the tram, because there's some collision next to this sign on the tram. And I crouched down there on top of the tram because once you activate those two levers next to the tram, it spawns a load trigger inside of the tram, but this trigger goes just barely above the ceiling of the tram. So if you get on top of the tram, you can hit that trigger so that you're in the next map while on top of the tram still. And we need to be on top of the tram because our goal is to get into this tunnel right here. Important note about the tunnel, you do not want to go too far into it, because at a certain point the tunnel does not have collision. So if you go too deep into it, it's bad news bears. But just like before, when we got on top of the tram, we want to take a chair with us. Oddly enough, I think it's the same chair we used for the first part of it. And then we want to set it up on the lip of the concrete in the tunnel right here. That's the gist of it anyway. And setting it up isn't too precise, because what you can do, I guess a small tutorial for those wanting to try it at home, is if you pull it with both hands, you can like have it pull towards you like this, so that stays upright, which is what you want. And then we want to pull it down so that the top of the chair right there is facing towards us. Let's be level. There we go. Then we want to jump on top of the chair. And we also want it so that the top of the chair is still on this little dip in the concrete. That went okay right there, but it can be a lot more chaotic than that, because this lip of the concrete in the tunnel here is very bouncy, so the chair can just like jostle around all over the place while you're trying to set it up. And it's very annoying, but thankfully it went okay here. And just like with the first one, we're going to do another 15 FPS prop fly. Depending on how the chair is set up, it can jostle around quite a lot, but we got a good setup right there. Just like before, I'm going to jump off the chair to give myself a ton of height. The amount of height you can get varies, but I found if you do that little circle jump right there, the height you get from it tends to be a bit more consistent. If you go high enough here, you can actually hit that little rock right there that lines the top of technically the map. Because yes, you can actually go that high if the prop fly decides to misbehave. And the idea is we want to get to that little dome right over there, because that's where the play care is. And there's a couple of different ways you can do this, which I'll showcase here by just walking on the rock. So you see that red light down there. That's the end of the tunnel that you would ride the tram on. And if you're doing any percent, you go near that red tunnel where the red light is, hit a load trigger, and then go back inbounds where the first area is. And then you just skip straight to the end of the game with another trick you'll be seeing later. You can complete the game pretty quick with that. It's like a 10-minute any percent run. And what's crazy about it is that was found, I think, literally on the day of release. Not on the day of, but pretty soon after this chapter first release. It's a modern game, you know, speedrunners are going to break it pretty quick, but it still surprised me how quick we broke this game. But yeah, now we're on the rocks out of bounds. We have effectively skipped the tram ride, but we want to get into the play care. So the way we do that is we just drop down right here. Because this outer shell of the tram, or dome, right there, it has no collision. So we can just walk right to it. Or right through it, I mean. And technically we could just go into the play care right now. But I'm actually going to take a slight detour and go over here. Because you can't quite see it right now. But below me is a raised platform with a switch on it. It essentially activates a story trigger way later in the game. And you're not supposed to hit it until, I think, after the second area. There's like a little mini cutscene you go through to hit it. But I'm going to try to hit it while falling down here. And I set up my camera in a pretty particular way. Just like so. because I need the angle and timing of the grab pack shot as well as I fall down to be very specific. It's not like too tough to time, but it is still kind of tight. I'm going to walk backwards right here, and then as I start to fall down, I'm going to transition to running forwards while in midair, and then you'll see like a button in the distance on that raised platform I was talking about. And hopefully if I time it right, I will hit that button on the way down. It is a bit of a tight timing, so let's see. The camera might have been too far to the right. Nice, we did hit it. So we hit that, it's basically a switch for a generator, more or less. Because later on in the game, after you beat the second area right here, which we'll get to later, the power goes out, and then the goal of the game becomes activating the generator by getting power cords for the different main areas, including this one. But by hitting that power switch as we fell down, it activated this power cord early. So we can just drag it along with us. And the reason activating that story trigger is important, even though we took a slight detour to get it, is because by putting this plug in, when we go down here underneath the statue to this generator, it'll give us a key. We have to grab this first key though. This first key we're grabbing is what lets us get to the first area, main area of the game after the intro. And we'll put this plug in.
Awesome! Look at that! Remember that generator?
I'll grab the second key from that machine. It's also a minor optimization. You can stay in this corner, and whenever a key comes down from that machine, I can grab it from a distance. It's a minor time saver. But yeah, if we take a quick look right here, you can see the second key we just grabbed is the school key. The school is normally the third area of the game, and we got the key for it immediately. So we technically could just go to the school right now, but we will be saving that for later. Because we could, like I said, we could technically go to the school right now, but there's a, I don't know what the correct word is for it, but there's like a thing we have to do later involving an item we get in the second area that prevents us from being able to skip it, at least entirely. But yeah, the important thing is we get the school key way early, like at the very start, so we don't have to do that mini cutscene I was talking about to activate the power. Because currently the power's already activated. Yeah, that'll lead us into the gas production zone, which is the first proper area of the game. Also, before I went in here, I tagged a checkpoint by that platform next to the door that leads into here, because I needed to hit a checkpoint. Because Chapter 3 is one of those games where it just does not like if you skip checkpoints. There's like a few games you may know of that have fail-safes like this. And the way it handles you skipping checkpoints in this game, in this chapter, is if you skip any checkpoints at all, the rest of the checkpoints will not work after that. So for a normal run, in a normal run, that would be an automatic reset, but, you know, backup autosave, so I don't have to worry about that too much.
Welcome to the gas production.
No, thanks for that, Ollie. So gas production zone is actually a pretty straightforward area. There's not much we can really do to skip it. It's like a pretty straightforward area, and it's pretty small too. There's not much you can do to sequence break it. We just have to grab this battery here, put it into that door, because we'll get another upgrade to our grab pack. If you remember in Chapter 2, just a bit ago, where we had that souped up right hand where we could activate electric nodes, we get an even more powerful version of it. The Grab Pack 2.0. If we do a quick scroll wheel or 2 press, that'll let us activate this purple hand right here. Also, get the tape because 100% stuff like I was saying earlier. The purple hand lets us do this. If you press it against these special pads, it'll basically act like a springboard and propel us upwards. That's a pretty key mechanic that gets used in a lot of puzzles in the game. We'll be seeing that quite a lot. And it actually, funnily enough, has a hand in a few skips that we can do later in the game. Speaking of which, we have not a huge skip, but a pretty minor one for this puzzle. Because the idea with this puzzle is you bring this platform, which has a springboard on it, all the way over to the other side right there, so we can get over that fence. But if you drag the platform over, not all the way, but almost, and then you do a running start and use the springboard, you can get over the fence. Minor time saver right there, because you don't have to bring the platform all the way over. Quick puzzle here, involving the light poles I showed before, so we'll just go through the motions with this one. The lighting in this game is obnoxious, by the way, because like this is Unreal Engine 5, like I was saying, so they really want to show off the lighting. And I'm on a 4090 PC, so I can't not play at max settings. We did a quick puzzle right there that will supposed to let us activate the generator to push this red smoke over here, which is like this weird substance in that tank right there. Because that's the end goal of Chapter 3, is we want to take this red smoke and basically kill Catnap with it. Because like Catnap is like one of the evil toys that's been trying to kill us. Also, this can happen too sometimes with the grab pack. I think it's another down patch version thing. Sometimes when you interact with things, and it can just happen randomly on this patch, the core of the grab pack can just glitch out and extend infinitely, like you're seeing right there, even if we're not grabbed onto something. It just happens for no reason. It's really strange. I'll activate the generator right there, and if someone sabotaged the power, it was probably a catnap chewing on the wires or something. But that leads into basically the progression of the rest of the game, like the overall progression, overall story beat, which is, like I was talking about with the cord earlier, and even just now, getting power cords from the different main areas of the game. There's like 4 to 5 of them that you have to go through, which we will be seeing. And then you power this generator to move the red smoke over, and you fight Catnap in epic boss fights that we'll get to see at the end, with a potential cheese strat. But for now, we just have to get the key to the next main area. This is a general flow of the game outside of the basic story beat I just mentioned. You beat a task in one area, usually ending in a big puzzle, and then you bring a power cord to this generator down here. And then after you get that, place that cord, you get a key to the next area of the game. So I'll go ahead and grab that. The next area we'll be going to, if you've ever played this game or even just seen videos of it, you more than likely know what's coming up. And it's personally my favorite area in the entire game. For the simple reason that the tone of this area is just so good. Because, like, the thing with the first 2 chapters of Poppy that I just played is that they kind of got crapped on by the rest of the internet as, like, horror games for kids that aren't really that scary. And so when Mob Entertainment was making Chapter 3, they saw that, I guess, and thought, okay, hold my beer, and made this the creepiest game they could possibly make. And they definitely succeeded in that. Like, this area, when you actually look into, like, the little tidbits hidden out of view and like the lore behind it is disturbing. So props to Mob Entertainment for bringing the horror into this chapter in particular. Like, they put a lot of work. I could gush about this chapter a lot. They put a lot of work into this particular chapter, and it shows. Granted, I'm skipping over some of it, but it really shows. But yeah, as far as speed tech goes, it's honestly pretty straightforward of an area, at least this first part. Because right now we're not actually in Home Sweet Home, technically. We're in a nightmare sequence because we huffed up some of that red smoke, which basically acts as a hallucinogen, more or less. So we're just hallucinating, running through an endless maze. Also, Catnap just booped out of existence, don't worry about that. We're just running around an endless maze, and moving through it is pretty straightforward once you know where to go. Like right there, there's supposed to be an endlessly looping set of corners, but if you just turn back and run back over the corner once, the hallway will turn back to normal. There's also some little optimizations to save time. Like in the first half of this little maze, you're supposed to go in specific directions, otherwise the game teleports you and makes you go the right way. And if you go the wrong way and you get teleported, there's like a brief animation that plays, and obviously letting that animation play is slow.
Greetings, employees,
And to cap off this nightmare sequence, you have a 2-minute unskippable cutscene. So again, if there's any plugs you want to make church, or if there's anything you want to ask in chat, this would be a good time for it, because I'm basically stuck waiting here.
It's going to take a little bit for chat to catch up, so I will remind everybody in chat that GDQ 2025 will be live from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania from January 5th through 12th. Registration and hotel bookings are now open. You can go visit gamesonquick.com, check out the GDQ 2025 important dates section to learn more. We are actually coming up on the end of registration, so if you do want to attend, you've got like 2.5 weeks left to register, so make sure you do that.
Worry not, for your supervisor.
Yeah, I actually submitted Silent Hill 2 Remake the second wave, so I'm basically banking on that getting in.
Did you come back years later?
I can imagine there's going to be a lot of people submitting that game.
Yeah, actually, so far I think there's only been a few. Just because we're so busy running the game right now.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
I'm busy running it to submit.
Yeah, I saw Richard, by the way, say them PT vibes. Definitely. I can definitely see that.
From a shadow. The smiling mouth.
Because this did come out in the EVA games like Visage and stuff like that. So.
Watching and waiting patiently for their turn at a warm welcome.
But yeah, like I said, this is a nightmare sequence where hallucinating all this happening. It alludes to weird plot stuff. Don't worry about it. We don't want to get too deep into the weeds about that. But the end result of it is this nightmare version of Huggy that you saw manifest on the TV. He's gonna pop out of the TV. It's actually fastest to just let him kill you right there. Because that cutscene right there, at least the end of it, where the Nightmare Huggy comes out of the TV, that's actually a forced death. Because you cannot outrun Nightmare Huggy at all during that. You can't actually, like, there's like a hallway you can run down, but eventually you get to a dead end. So you are, in fact, forced to die there. So now we're in Home Sweet Home proper, and there's a couple of different ways to... It's normally like a pretty lengthy section, not as long as the Nightmare section we just did, but still kind of lengthy. And there's a couple different ways we can skip past this, which I'll show the inbounds method first and the crazy prop surf out of bounds version second. Also, very important note, we need to grab that gas mask. I mentioned before how we can't just skip straight to the school, and that gas mask is why. Because there's the idea with that gas mask, as you'll see when I go through Home Sweet Home, is you are trying to keep yourself from breathing in red smoke. Because if you go in a room with red smoke in it and you don't have that gas mask on, you move really slowly, for one, so you have a movement penalty, and you also eventually die. So you absolutely need that gas mask to progress through some sections of the game. And there's one room later on where you absolutely need it and cannot avoid it in any way. So we do have to grab that gas mask to proceed in the game. This room being a good example of it, because there's just a ton of red smoke here. Alright, cool. So that one jump on the jump pad right there looks pretty simple, right? And it is, in theory. But the thing is, you can see all this debris covering the opening. You get caught on that when you use the jump pad. And so I've had runs of the longer categories that do Home Sweet Home, where I jump several times and get blocked by this debris. So it looks simple, but it's actually like a razor's edge kind of jump right there. Going over here, because again, 100% rules. There's a tape I need to grab here. There's on average like 1 or 2 in each area. So it's not too hard to remember where they are, but there are a lot more tapes in this game actually. There's like 11 total versus Chapter 2, which I think had 6. It's a lot more to grab in this game, but still not too bad to manage. So there's Catnap being creepy. If you actually explore around here in Home Sweet Home, there's actually a room you can see where Kissy Missy is just like looking at a photo of a girl, and it's pretty cool. Sonic.exe face 100%, especially later on when like the red smoke really takes effect. He looks so weird. So let's go up here, grab a battery. Because the idea with the puzzles in this area is there's a door that we need to get to the final puzzle of the area. And to power each side of the door, because there's like 2 generators you need to activate, we need to grab 2 batteries, put them in their respective slots. So we just open that one. And we'll take this toy car right here. Can't find it, you let it wind up, and then once you let it rip like a Beyblade, it'll launch into a door that you need to get past, break it open, and you can get past it. But with this one, there's a little shortcut where you can just stand on top of it as it runs into the door, and that just gives you a bit of a momentum boost forward. It's a minor time saver. Grab that tape right there. And then you're supposed to do an extended sequence of puzzles with the green hand, kind of like the electric puzzles we did in Chapter 2. Well, we actually just got it right there. Instead, you can actually go down here and just go next to these bars. Just across these, just on the other side of these metal bars, is a checkpoint that you're supposed to get after going through the store after completing both halves of the puzzle. But for some reason, that checkpoint extends just barely beyond the metal bars, kind of like when we hit the checkpoint on top of the tram during tram skip earlier. And so if we reload the checkpoint right here after hitting it, go to second. There we go. We're on the other side of the door, and we just skipped the second half of the puzzle completely. Which is good, because it's pretty lengthy. So thankfully we just get to skip past that. Another quick electric puzzle right here. This also introduces a new mechanic with these electric puzzles, which are these basically hand turrets, I guess I'll call them. You aim them at the electric poles to hit these electric nodes. They introduced this because with how convoluted some of these electric puzzles get later in the game, granted we'll be skipping some of them, but with how complicated some of these electric puzzles get later in the game, it necessitates using these hand cannons just to be able to hit both switches at once. I'll pull this bridge to block the store from raising. Activate both nodes at once, and now open the door so we can get out of the garage. And that's both tapes in Home Sweet Home, so we're good to get out of here. So that's what would happen normally, right? But I'm gonna take a slight detour and actually go back to the start of Home Sweet Home after the hallucination scene. Just need to find it real quick. I think this is it. Okay. So I'm going to go back to the point where I woke up immediately after the nightmare section. Because that whole hullabaloo I did, where I did the first half of the puzzle and then clipped through the bars, you can skip that entirely. Because if you get to the top of that little area where those toy blocks are, the wall does not have collision. So you can just walk right through it, go out of bounds, and skip straight to the load zone at the entrance of Home Sweet Home. The problem with this is that it's very tricky to control because, like I said, prop physics are very volatile in Chapter 3. But we're going to hope for the best here. Wow, that is very bright. Hold on. Let's lower this very briefly. I'll just, shoot right there. Why not? So I'm going to shoot my hands there at the center of the cube, just so I have good alignments. And like I said, prop physics with any of these prop surfs are messy. But you can control it sort of by aiming the camera at certain directions. So after I put the hands in the middle of that cube, I'm going to orient the bottom of my reticle there, if you can see it, at the edge of the cube. And I'm going to try to control this cube as good as I can as I climb up. You ideally want the cubes move in a straight line so that you don't bump against the railing of the balcony or anything. It looks okay. I could just bonk the ceiling light though. Okay, cool. So we climbed all the way up, and right around here I think is where we want to go. Next to this bed. Because since we're on a balcony looking area that we're not supposed to get to normally, this wall right here does not have collision. So that these rooms right here, this is where I would have to do that extended electric puzzle, but obviously we're not going to be doing that. Also, little details, speaking of, little Easter eggs, I believe all these photos within Home Sweet Home are real kids that the devs put in the game, which is a really cool detail. I'm half curious actually if they use stock photos of that or took photos of their actual kids to put in the game, because that would be a sick detail if so. I'll jump down here because we need to get back to the entrance of Home Sweet Home where the load zone is to exit. I'm also going to change FPS to 75 right there for a later skip. And unlike in Chapter 1 and 2, thankfully, we no longer have to deal with the slow-mo fall damage. So we can fall as much as we want and not have to worry about it. So yeah, like before when we did this section kind of inbounds, get straight to the end of Home Sweet Home. And the benefit of that is we actually skip a cutscene here in addition to skipping Home Sweet Home. Because after we get out of Home Sweet Home, there's supposed to be a cutscene where the trigger is right around here. You talk with Kissy Missy and Poppy, who reappear from Chapter 2. Then you go up to that raised platform that I skipped before. And you get and then you get the key to school, and then you go to school. But we ended up skipping that entirely, and we can just go straight there. Before we move on, though, I want to take yet another detour, because there's a pretty funny way you can break that cutscene. And it's one of the most bizarre glitches I've ever seen in this game. Speaking of YouTuber shoutouts, quick shoutouts to I believe Backseat is the person who found that. I saw it in the video he did on this game, and it was super funny. I lost it the first time I saw this. So I just had to load a checkpoint real quick right there. That just makes it so that I'm at the end of Home Sweet Home, because this cutscene I'm trying to activate is right at the end of Home Sweet Home when I leave. So I need to go to this checkpoint to get there. So we'll exit like we did before. This time we are going to get the cutscene because we hit the checkpoints properly. I think is the main culprit for this cutscene not playing. So there we go. There's Kissy Missy and Poppy returning from Chapter 2.
They didn't do anything wrong. We're actually here to help.
Little character really nicely in Chapter 3, which is cool to see.
This place
Because it's like I was saying during Home Sweet Home, where they built up the horror really well. They also built up the story really well. So curious to see what they did do for Chapter 4 at some point. So you're supposed to go over there and do the cutscene where you activate the power. But instead, I'm going to go over here and activate a checkpoint next to the generator. Boink, there we go. And I'm immediately going to reload it. Which puts me right here, past where the cutscene is supposed to happen. So you would think, oh, let's just go back to Home Sweet Home and re-trigger it, right? So let's go do that. Oh, Yeah. Well, it turns out the doors are locked, because that's what happens after you go to each main area. So I guess we can just try to look for Kissing Poppy. Although, it can be a little weird, because sometimes they just don't spawn. We're not doing this for a bit. But yeah. But yeah, I'm running around here, because actually I'm just trying to just trigger the dialogue that's supposed to play during the cutscene. But getting it to trigger can be a little finicky. Oh, there we go. So, where do you think Kissy is? Uh-oh.
You deserve an explanation. Come on.
Yeah, when you hit the checkpoint out of sequence and you start this cutscene, this happens. Kissy Missy just doesn't know what to do with herself in T-poses. She's sunbathing, don't worry about it. What's funny about it, too, is that the cutscene will proceed as normal, so you'll see this cabinet open out of thin air. Oh, I noticed that too. Poppy's attached to her feet. Oh, God. Okay. I'm not going to say that's never happened before, but I've never seen that before.
Listen.
Kind of counts, I guess. I don't know.
But I can't just let you leave. What's happening
Like
down there
halfway
is
there.
bigger than all of us.
Yeah, sort of.
I need you. So we can get revenge on those monsters who've tortured you. Who've tortured us. They didn't act alone. They're disciples of the original.
Oh, yeah. When you're not doing the out-of-bounds version of Home Sweet Home, you can't actually get off the elevator early. You have to activate it from the outside, though. It's a little tricky. Aw, I didn't quite get it. If you edge out of the elevator just right, you can be outside the you can trick the elevator into going down when you're outside of it. So you can jump on this railing to get off it early. Fortunately, I didn't get that though, so we just have to watch T-posing Kissy Missy.
Let me help you kill him. Let me help you save everyone.
And I wanted to wait anyway because I wanted to line this up real quick
You killed Huggy.
for a really funny viewing angle.
Freed me. You are perfect for this. Catnap is coming. He's the final obstacle the prototype has placed against us. We can't stay.
Angle this just right.
Ollie will call you.
Think we're going up now? Anytime now. Okay, there we go. It should be going up now. Godspeed. Her planet needs her. Not even useful for speedruns at all, because it obviously wastes time, but that is so funny. And I'll actually go to school properly this time. Just had to get the plug-in to access the key like we did before.
Remember that generator you turned on inside of Home Sweet Home? Well, that was a backup generator for just that building.
And kind of keeping with the theme of mob upping the horror element, that stays true for the school as well. Because, school settings in horror games are always pretty good. But there's a pretty cool chase sequence we get to do at the end of this. I'll do the normal route first, granted with a bit of cheese, but I'll show the normal inbounds route through this first, and then I'll do the skip, because there is a skip for this area too. For the most part, in most categories, it's done pretty close to how it is normally, but there is a skip for it that you can do in some select categories I'll be showing after this. Well, doing the inbounds route first. So just grabbing all these notes, because again, keeping with 100% rules. For this area in particular, for 100%, there's 6 notes I have to grab, so we're grabbing those as I go through here. And you just saw her move to the left. That's the monster of this area, Miss Delight. She has a chase sequence at the end of this area with a really cool mechanic. That is probably one of the best chase mechanics I've seen for a monster in a recent horror game. Bit of a tall order, but it is really cool. It's a mechanic I really like anyway. The only hint I'll give is if you've ever seen Doctor Who, you'll know what's about to happen. Which I know sounds kind of weird, but bear with me. Activate that door, and then we'll get that tape put in here. Get Mr. Light zooming past that door. Oh, another time save, like a small time save. I did not mention until now, because it's like such a minor thing. You can open and close doors with grab packs, or with the grab pack. So much nicer, because you get to open doors way in advance, instead of having to run up to them and press E, like I was doing in the first 2 chapters. So, bit of a time saver right there. It's around 1 to 2 seconds for each door you open, which obviously adds up over the course of a given run.
Not a good listener, are you?
And up on the end, we're about to do the big chase with Miss Delight after we grab this note right there. That's our 5th note. So the chase is going to trigger. Okay, I have to let that play out. So the chase is going to start as soon as I activate this electric node right here. So there we go. So the generator will start, but then Miss Delight is going to sabotage it. And you'll see right there that she stopped. So Miss Delight, the way she operates, and I'll explain it now just because the chase goes by kind of fast. The way Miss Delight behaves, and this is why I mentioned the Doctor Who reference, she's essentially a Weeping Angel type monster. She only moves when you're looking away from her, which in a casual playthrough makes this kind of tense, and it definitely was tense in my casual playthrough, but there is a way to cheese it and make it a bit easier. And it all starts with this first little bit right here. So I put this battery in to power the gate, but then as I go out of the gate, I'm going to smuggle that battery from the other side. Literally just grabbing that one battery lets you cheese this entire chase, because there's like one room at the end where you'd have to do a bunch of back and forth to get a battery and then charge the green hand to activate an electric node. But you can skip that part of the puzzle, at least that part of it, entirely by just smuggling this battery with you. So that way you skip having to get one of the 2 batteries. And you can bring the charge for the electric node from this room that I'm in right now. Just gotta do a quick back and forth to activate these 2 electric nodes. Also, the music in this chase goes so hard. Just putting that out there. So we activated that electric node, put both batteries in, including the one that we smuggled, and that's the end of the chase. Just gonna go in here and escape Miss Delight's clutches by closing this door. Oh, the disrespect! Okay. Whenever I do these longer categories to actually do the chase, I like to just crouch spam on her for fun. But yeah, that's the end of school normally. Again, going to go back to the beginning of school. Because there's a way to skip all of that running I did and the Miss Delight chase and go straight to that hallway at the end. Just gotta load a checkpoint right there so I can go to the beginning of school. By the way, I'm launching this through the launcher, and for chapter 1 and 2, I did it with launched it with a separate exe. In case people were curious. Okay, cool. Right here. Alright, so unlike before, where I went around grabbing all those notes, doing all the electric puzzles with the green hand, I'm actually instead going to grab this block right here. Because in a similar manner to when I hovered out of bounds with the chair at the very start of the game, to get past the first area, I'm going to do a similar thing here with this toy block. And I have to set it up in a pretty specific way so that when I get to the vent up there, I'm able to grab it while I'm in the vent, because otherwise grabbing the vent would be, or grabbing the block while in the vent would be a bit more difficult.
I recognize you.
And I'm at 75 FPS because that's what this particular prop surf, because again, all prop surfs are different, works at best.
Alive. Barb?
Oh. Barb says you're looking for your co-workers. Catnap wouldn't like that you're here.
Alright, so I'm gonna grab the block right there at 75 FPS. Edge myself out over the... or put myself out over the edge right there to make sure that the block catches me in a good way as it flies up. And we're gonna try to get out of bounds through this vent. Okay, that looks good. And my consistency with these skips is really good. Especially considering what happened during Chapter 2. So yeah, just walk out of bounds for a little bit there. Also, that's Miss Delight right there, both the good and evil versions of her. The way that this area kind of works is the good and evil versions of Miss Delight are kind of stored out of bounds. And then once you trigger the chase to start, she pops into the hallway in front of the generator, sabotages it, and the chase starts. So we'll bring this block over here, because we want to get on top of this tunnel right here. I don't want to lose the block right there. We want to get on top of this tunnel right here. This is the tunnel that I went into at the end of the chase. You can even see the door right there. And I need to hover with this block to get over it. With prop physics being as volatile as they are, though, I have to basically nudge the block up against the wall to ensure that it doesn't fly all over the place. Should give me relatively consistent little flight path right there, so I can get up over the wall. And then I'm going to keep taking this block with me, because I need to get over this wall, and to actually get to the end of the level, and I need to use the block to get over that. Need to be kind of careful right here, otherwise I fall in that pit right there that's just below this capsule. Flip back in, and just get past the school. The unfortunate thing about this skip is that it's only useful in one category, all stages out of bounds, which is like the closest thing you'll get to a non-any percent, no major skips category that still uses cool out of bounds stuff. Because in all other categories, you have to do school normally. So it's really a shame that it isn't used more widely in speedruns, but in categories that do use it, it's super cool. So we're past the school now, and right before I went into that load screen, I grabbed this little hand power-up that was in this capsule right here. Because when you grab that power-up, it opens this door that leads into this kind of in-between section, the caves. And by grabbing that power-up, which I'll get to when it's a good time, it'll make it so that the door is opening while the game is loading the next area. Basically, so it opens during that load screen leading into here. So that door is already open when the level is loaded. Minor time saver right there, but worth pointing out. And that tape right there. If you remember Rich from Chapter 2, he returns here. And you're supposed to go over here and do some platforming with the purple hand. But again, not about that, so we're just going to jump over that railing. Going to do the same right here. It's not really out of bounds. You can do this in inbounds speedruns of the game, but just gives us a nice shortcut to get into this next puzzle. And similarly to the puzzle we did at the end of Home Sweet Home, it's another pretty lengthy puzzle involving not only the jump pads, as you can see, to get between each half of the puzzle, but also the electric poles and hand cannons right there. But there's a way to skip past this puzzle completely, because right over there is the elevator that we would take at the end of the puzzle. And through some very clever... I have to load a checkpoint right there because I flubbed up. I had the wrong hand. With some clever manipulation stuff, we can basically launch ourselves off the blue boxes on the electric poles to get above that barrier. Because believe it or not, the blue panels on those electric poles are actual physics objects that you can stand on. have to get over there first because I accidentally had the wrong hand out. I was trying to jump to get to the other side, and I didn't have my purple hand out. I had my green hand out on accident. Also, we get this gun right here. I might as well explain this now. This is the second and last new hand power-up we get for our right hand. You can switch between it with the scroll wheel or 1, 2, 3. And the idea with this is it's basically a flare gun. Plain and simple flare gun. We mainly use that in the next area after this to see where to go, because it is pretty dark in the next area. But anyway, to skip this puzzle, we're going to go over here using this jump pad as a springboard to get over. Do the same thing to get on top of this blue panel, because again, the blue panels on these poles, you can actually stand on them. Then I'm going to activate this blue panel from below, and then it's going to swing up after it swings down to where I am. And as it's swinging up, I'm going to try to time a jump to get over that barrier up there. And it's a little tricky to time, so let's see. Okay, there we go. We just skipped right over the barrier. Don't have to do the whole puzzle to activate this elevator, and we can just go right along. Just don't mind that gobbledygook over there. Weird lore stuff. But yeah, that besides the tram skip at the start and like one skip we'll be seeing at the very end of the game, that little jump I did to get over the barrier is actually one of my favorite tricks in the game, because it isn't like a fancy out of bounds or anything. It's just a plain and simple momentum boost, and it looks pretty sick. We're going to get right back into the prop fly craziness though, because now we're in an area called the Playhouse. Like before, I'll do this section normally just to show you what it looks like. To a point, obviously I won't go through the whole thing. And then I'll showcase the skip, which is probably one of the craziest looking and most stress-inducing prop flies in the whole game. Because it's typically pretty consistent for me, but if it goes wrong, it really goes wrong. It's that kind of skip. I'll just be running through the tunnels here, using the flare gun to light our way occasionally. While I'm running through here, you won't really see it because they aren't really relevant if you go fast enough. But you saw it right there with that little elephant. Those are a new enemy that get introduced here. The smiling critters, they kind of chase you throughout this whole area. And you're supposed to do a puzzle here where you activate 2 buttons, one here, where I am right now, and then one on the other side. There's actually a pretty simple skip for it. There's like a couple different methods for this. I'm pausing so that the smiling critters don't get me. But there's a couple different methods for this. You can either jump on that wall in the middle, or you can just jump on that wall off to my right. I go a little late. There we go. So we just skip past that puzzle completely with a simple jump. And then we go through this hallway, down the stairs, and we get the cutscene with Dog Day, if you remember that from played this game. Then we do a chase with him. But there's actually a way to skip that completely. And like I said, it's one of the most stress-inducing skips in the entire game. Because it's, like I said, it works fine for me, but if it goes wrong, it really goes wrong. Because what I'll be doing is I'll be taking a toy block from one of the rooms where I was being chased by the smiling critters. And I'm going to do a prop fly with it at 30 FPS. And what's scary about it is... Oh, actually, hold on. I have to adjust my volume real quick. It's very loud otherwise. What's scary about it is the entire time there's like a big blank void beneath me. So if if the block decides to throw me in a weird direction, which it most likely does at some point in the middle of a good run, I just fly into the abyss. And like I said before, when you skip too many things, the checkpoints don't work. And by that point, we would have done quite a few skips that would have avoided a lot of the checkpoints. So if I mess that up at all, it's an automatic reset in a normal run. Also, this can happen sometimes because the flares have collision. So when you're trying to drag this toy block through here, which is what I'll be using for the skip, I can get caught on that, and it can even get caught on the doors in that hallway. It's kind of annoying, but it's not unmanageable. So crawl in this corner. This is one of the spots where the smiling critters can climb out of, but I'll be using it to get out of bounds, similar to the vents from the first area skip. Alright, and this is where it gets hard, because I'm going to set my hands right around there, just beneath me. I'll angle the camera up, and then I'm just going to pull the block beneath my feet and hope I make it, basically. Okay, nope, we're good. There we go, stuck the landing. So, like I said, the physics you can get from that block vary wildly, because it's jostling around a lot, like with the chair flings, with the FPS being so low. So sometimes you can just get flung out of bounds. And in a real run, there will be a reset, but at first try, so it's fine. Also, don't worry about Dog Day here, he's just kind of sitting out of bounds. We need to go inbounds, though, because we need to hit a trigger that's right around where that door is, to trigger him chasing us at the end of the chase. Just like that. There he is. We need to use the jump pad to get across. There we go. You can also do that as a little shortcut after doing that. If you jump at the right time as this elevator is going up, you can jump over that gate before it opens. Not a huge time saver, just a small shortcut. And it doesn't end there, because I have a bit of blind movement right here. Okay, thankfully it's not as hard as the little blind movement at the start, but yeah, a couple seconds or so saved by doing that. Little time saver. So yeah, that skip ends up saving, that skip I did in the Playhouse, which is what that area is called, it ends up saving around 2 minutes, I think, compared to doing the area normally. Because normally that area takes you like, I forget how much, I think it's like 4 or 5 minutes, somewhere around there. I don't do many inbounds runs nowadays, but I think that's about how long it takes. Anyway, so now we are in the last area before we get to the final boss of the game. This is the counselor's office. And unlike the past few areas, which had huge skip after huge skip, counselor's office is actually pretty straightforward for the most part as far as skips go. But there is some trickery we can do at the end of it. So when I put this battery in to power the door, right after putting it in, I real quickly pulled it out. Because normally when you take the battery out, this door is supposed to close because it's not powered on. But if you take it out real quickly, it stays open. And we need that door to be open so we can get to this door right here for a future skip. And the method for that skip is really silly, but also really like huge time saves. Like we're talking 4 minutes saved for reasons I'll get to later. There's also a pretty cute Easter egg right there. If you watch closely right there, you can see Bunzo, or at least a version of Bunzo, getting grabbed by Catnap there. And I'm also doing a little setup for a puzzle in that room that I just bypassed later on. Because this battery that I grabbed from that room, if I pull it out right here as I go through the door, it'll go to its original spawn on the table back there, which is useful for doing that skip a little quicker. But speaking of puzzles, we have a electric puzzle, or what would be an electric puzzle, that makes pretty heavy use of the purple hand. But there's a way to skip it, not with glitches or anything, just really cool momentum stuff. Kind of like what I did with the puzzle skip in caves. And it involves some really weird momentum stuff with the purple hand jump pads. I kind of alluded to it earlier when I was talking about the two puzzles in the gas production zone. But this one is a little stranger, because if you jump, or if you use the purple hand on the very edge of one of these jump pads, it's not happening here, but if you use the, actually I can probably just demonstrate it right here. If you use the purple hand on the very edge of one of these jump pads, I have to set it up again. If you use the purple hand on the very edge of one of those jump pads, it'll give you some horizontal momentum. For some weird reason, it's probably just some weird way the collision works on the jump pad, where it thinks you're like using the jump pad on the very edge for some reason. So it's powered up, and I'm going to use the jump pad at the very edge of it. There we go. We get a huge momentum boost forward, and it gives us enough airtime to get to this platform over here. Normally, you'd have to use those electric poles to raise some additional platforms to be able to make it over here, but don't have to do that. Over here, got this key. Again, 100% roll is going to get that tape. Run up to that puzzle where I got the battery from. And this puzzle room that I'm coming up to here is why we can't skip Home Sweet Home entirely and just go straight to the school with the power relay skip, I guess is what I'll call it. Because if you remember before, I mentioned we need that gas mask, and this is one room where we absolutely need it, because this room is completely filled with red smoke. And so if we did not bring the gas mask here, we'd essentially die to the red smoke immediately. So we have to go ahead and we have to equip the gas mask for this. And the actual puzzle is pretty simple. We just have to open these shells and then do the same charge stealing trickery that I did in chapter 2. Make short work of that puzzle. So I'm going to take a quick swig of water because I've been talking a lot these past few hours. Stay hydrated, folks. Yep.
Staying hydrated is very important.
Yeah, second that. Oh yeah, that actually moves us nicely into a really weird glitch, because I mentioned before about doing some weird things with batteries to occupy 2 slots, like I was trying to do at the start to skip the phone call with Ollie, who's kind of this character that helps us throughout the game. I'm going to do a similar thing here, but in a really unconventional way. So first I'm going to deactivate this electric pole so I can angle it a bit to the left, right there. And then I'm going to pull the switch again to activate that hand cannon, which is going to activate that electric node right up there, I believe is the idea. And that's going to cause some weird things to happen to this battery. Pay close attention. Yeah, just one jumbo sized. The reason that happened, yeah, the reason that happens is because I believe the way it works anyway is this is intended to be like a bit of a scripted puzzle. So once you complete that first half where you interact with that electric node over there, this battery, which spawned up on this platform originally, is supposed to go back to its spawn on top of the platform. But we interrupted that by holding on to it with our grab pack. And I guess its response to that is just to jumbo size because does not compute or something. And we want it to be jumbo size because if we take this jumbo size battery, put it in, it powers both slots for that electric node right there. So we can redirect it. And activate that electric node. Because that way we want to get a battery that I think is somewhere around where that elevator is to put in that other slot. And a really funny side effect of doing that giga battery glitch, I guess is what I'll call it, is while it does occupy both slots, it's a bit too big to fit into the slot. So if we go over here, you can see it's peeking out the other end. Oh, and also with the gas mask, it's not an actual model in the game. It's just like a flat PNG that the game puts over the camera for the effect. In fact, if you pay attention really closely when you put the mask on, I don't know if it's fixed in later patches, but if you look really closely when you put the mask on, you can see like aliasing, like jagged features around the edge of the image. So yeah, I went down right there after finishing the puzzle, because normally you're supposed to go in the vents in that little room. After finishing the puzzle, then you attempt to leave by taking a battery in that hallway right there that's filled with red smoke. And then you start a cutscene where Catnap attacks you, and then you have one big hallucination sequence. Not quite like the hallucination section in Home Sweet Home, but still alludes to a lot of lore. And then you'd leave Home Sweet Home. Or not Home Sweet Home, but the counselor's office to finish the game. But in a similar case to the metal bars in Home Sweet Home, the checkpoint for after the cutscene extends just barely beyond the door. So you can just rub up against the door. Somewhere around there. I think that's good. Right around there. And that hits the story trigger that you would hit after watching the cutscene, or at least ideally it does. Well, we'll be able to see here because the lighting will be different when we leave. There we go. So the game acts as if we've watched the cutscene. Now we can take both of these wires to the end of, or not to the end of the game, but to put them in the generator beneath the statue, as he said. So we grab one wire right there next to the counselor's office, and then we need to get another one next to the elevator from before. We saw Kissy Missy go to the planet that needs her. And we'll take both of those cords and plug it in underneath the statue on the generator. And there's a really strange effect that happens when we put both these plugs in, because we've technically done this out of sequence. So you heard that clock right there? Yeah, that battery, that does not exist. So I mentioned before about how the game doesn't like when you skip checkpoints. We can play through the game anyway, right? Skipping checkpoints, because it's like, you can still hit the story triggers, it's fine. But a side effect of skipping the checkpoints, and the checkpoints breaking as a result, is that battery that's supposed to spawn right there doesn't spawn in. You hear the sound effect clearly, but it doesn't actually spawn in. Which is a problem, because we'll be doing a final confrontation with Catnap in a little bit. And to power the elevator to get up to that final boss fight, which is what it essentially is, we need to get that battery. But the battery didn't spawn. So we can't power the elevator to get to the final boss. So we need to take an alternative route to get there. As you might have guessed, it's with another prop fly. And if you've seen any 80% runs of this game, including the run that I did at GDQ this year, this is the trick that we use to skip to the end of the game. Literally, you can skip straight to the end of the game, essentially, from the very beginning in the gas production zone. And this is how you do it. It involves a prop surf, prop fly, whatever you prefer to call it, with this barrel right here. You can do it with other props, like a thin gas can, which I'll be using for a skip at the end of the game, after the final boss. But for me personally, the barrel works best, so that's what I typically use in runs. So we'll get on top of the barrel and start hovering with it. As I fly here, I'm going to try and move the camera to make sure it stays relatively still, but again, prop physics are volatile in this game anyway, so I just generally kind of go with the flow and hope for the best. Yeah, if that happens where you fall off in the middle of it, it's best to just reset it and try again. Generally, you want to make sure the prop is going in a straight line as you're flying up, because once it starts to jiggle around a little bit, like spinning in circles or something, that's when you know it's about to go awry. So generally, when I know that's about to happen, I try to camera correct, like I said, or just reset it up if I'm pretty early in the prop fly. Like if I fall right here pretty early, I can just reset it up pretty easily. And the idea with this is we're flying on the outside of the elevator shaft because, you know, if the elevator doesn't work, we'll just take the express lane instead. There we go. Now we're at the very top of the elevator shaft. You can see the elevator, where the elevator would normally go up right there. And right next to this door, basically right on the door, is a checkpoint. Or not a checkpoint, but a load trigger. And that will load me into the final boss of the game. Just like that, by hitting that load trigger. So in any percent, we use that to skip basically right to the end of the game. Of course, there's some other stuff we have to do, but we effectively skip to the end of the game. And the funny thing about this skip, speaking of people finding things quickly in modern speedruns, this skip that skips 90% of the game was found on day 1. I'm not kidding. And what was funny about it too is I knew people were gonna, given how active speedrun communities are nowadays, I was half thinking in my head, okay, please don't find something early so I can experience the game for myself. And then they found this that skips the whole game, and I was like, dang it, why?
Never lucky.
Yep. What's up?
Log code.
You were saying something?
Never lucky, like...
Yeah.
I waited like 3 extra days or something.
Just a little longer would have been good. And now I'll be doing the final boss of the game. Essentially how this fight works is it's not really a boss, per se, but it's more of a survival section, more or less, because you don't actually fight Catnap directly. You're just protecting yourself against him. At GDQ, I gave it the nickname of Playtime Tower Defense. Pretty accurate. You're kind of seeing it outlined on this monitor in the middle right here, but it's, like I said, a timed survival section. It'll last for around 3 minutes. And every 45 seconds, while that 3-minute or 180-second timer is going on the monitor, I'll have to insert a battery into this middle terminal, because there's this electric node right here that I need to power up in order to eventually defeat Catnap by electrocution. Again, this game is not beta approved. Very much not at this point. So I'll gradually be taking these batteries out one by one, and I'm taking them out right now because I want them to be stashed in the middle of the arena so I can just real quickly insert them in these slots while the boss fight is going. And I'm explaining this all ahead of time because where Catnap goes during this is a little random, so I have to not concentrate fully on where he is, because with the power-ups I have on the right hand, it's pretty easy, but even then it can be kind of difficult if things go awry. Oh, almost. Is it not going in? Well, it's probably because it wants a battery to be in there. What? Oh, I think because I have to put an electric charge in there. Yep, there we go. I just had a brain fart. Okay, now the fight actually starts. So now Catnap is chasing after me. And what makes this kind of tricky for a first playthrough, and sometimes even trips me up in speedruns, is in addition to Catnap going after us in his little creepy form, There's also several fake versions of catnap. They'll try to trip us up. And I have to keep track of which ones are fake or not in order to know, okay, do I have to spring a trap to defend myself? There's a couple of ways to tell if the catnap that's coming towards you is fake or not. For instance, with the flare gun, if you shoot a flare at a fake, it'll disappear. But obviously, if it's the real catnap, it won't. And also, if you don't have the flare gun, which is possible to have happen with skips, if you look at catnap and the camera starts shaking, then it's a real catnap. But if it's the fake catnap, the camera won't shake at all. And we actually got a pretty good spawn on catnap right here, because now we get to do a cheese strat. This is another one of the lanes you can go to, this little hatch in the middle. And the idea with this mechanic of the fight is you close the hatch to make catnap go away. But he does not go from this hiding spot until you close the hatch. So what we can do is just like close the hatch over and over and keep him stun locked in that one spot for the rest of the fight. It's kind of
fantastic.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because it's like you're playing cat or hide and seek with a pet cat in real life.
Yeah.
This is our way of making catnap or protecting catnap from the zoomies, I guess. Yeah, we just have to do this over and over to keep catnap in place. Like I said, it's a little random where he goes. We got a good pattern here. He actually popped up there in that hatch pretty early. But sometimes I can have a really weird pattern where he like loops around where he and his fakes just loop around the arena and don't ever attack me, which I did happen to get at GDQ just out of pure luck. But we actually got to showcase the cheese spot here, thankfully. So we put the last battery in. Now we just have to wait for the electric node in the middle to be fully charged. Okay, I let go of it prematurely, but that's fine. We can make do. The timer's pretty close to ending anyway, so it's not a huge deal if he decides to attack me again. Unless if he goes in this left lane, which would be a bit unlucky. I think we're good though, so I'll go ahead and prep my green hand to activate it. Oh, that was just in time too, because he was about to kill me from there. Because he was coming down the left lane, and I started to see the camera shake, and I realized, oh crap, that's the real one. Yeah, but apparently Catnap is allergic to electronics, or even just electricity in general, because he like catches fire right there. And this cutscene right here, I don't know how to give it to context. It's just weird lore stuff that's happening. But I can give a quick summary. Basically, all these toy monsters we've been encountering throughout the series, they were people that used to be people that were involved with Playtime Co. in one way or another. But they got turned into toys to kind of help out with the production of toys in the factory. And in Theodore, or Catnap's case right there, he got in a serious accident and was saved by the prototype, who's kind of that clawed hand right there. But yeah, going deeper than that would be deep in the weeds lore stuff, so I won't go over that. But we do have a skip right here, 2 skips back to back, actually, to end off the game, because we are getting pretty close. So when you hit this button, there's a load that happens to start a sequence where you take an elevator down to get back to the main lobby and finally switch the red smoke to the proper direction. But if you are on the edge of the elevator at the correct time while that loading is happening, you can end up outside the elevator when the map loads in. So it looks a bit like that. You just walk backwards and then forwards a little bit. Okay, cool. So we're outside of the elevator, where we were when we finished the elevator skip from before. So we can just drop back down to get to the main lobby. That's called elevator skip. Saves probably 15-20 seconds, because you avoid having to take the elevator to get all the way down to here. And I'm actually going to switch the FPS back to 75. Because I'm going to do another prop fly, either one, to end off the game. As soon as I turn on the red smoke right there, and it's going to involve this gas can. It's very particular. The gas can, for example, can get stuck in the wall when I try to drag it out. It's spot right there. But I'm basically going to try to take this gas can with me, which can be a little finicky because it likes to get stuck. Like that. But it's fine. We just need to grab the gas can and the barrel at the same time. The idea is I'm going to try to stretch the cord of the grab pack to the longest length that it can go to. Kind of similarly to what I did for GGD skip in Chapter 2. And if I set it up right, in the next room, some weird physics properties are going to happen with this gas can. Like in this next room, this will start cutscene with Poppy that ends the game.
And you've done it again.
I'm gonna set up the gas can at the very end of the cord's length right there.
It's gone. The red smoke is diverted.
Should be good.
Everything is falling into place thanks to you.
Okay, cool. So I got it properly. You can see when the gas can is floating right there. It has some floaty properties to it. Which is what we want, because the idea is we are going to surf on this gas can. It's another prop fly.
This is your answer.
While it has these floaty properties in order to get below this elevator. Because just below this elevator that I'm standing in front of is a trigger to start the cutscene that ends the game. And again, if we prop surf on this gas can, well, with the floaty physics, we can fly up below some invisible walls and then fly up to hit the trigger to start that cutscene, which ends the game. And what's really tricky about this one is you're above a death pit the entire time. So if I fall at all during this, it's over. So we'll just hope I don't accidentally fall off the gas can or something. Here we go. So I'm going to fly up with both hands, let go and slowly hover down with one hand, so I can more easily set up my descent. And once the second ring right there appears, or disappears out of my vision, I'm going to fly up with the gas can, because I'm low enough that I can get around the invisible walls. Then in a second I'll hit the trigger to start the cutscene. There we go. So that activates the cutscene early, which makes the elevator go down early. So we can trigger the ending early while this cutscene happens. This skips a really lengthy, 4-minute long cutscene, where we get a huge lore dump about something called the Hour of Joy, which is basically a exciting event that starts a lot of the lore in this series. And yeah, we just watch this cutscene until the end of the run. Time for Chapter 3 runs is normally when this black screen happens in a second at the end of the cutscene. And I guess for our purposes, we can end time there too. So time will be in a little bit. Again, it's when the black screen happens. Time.
EG.
Yeah. Hopefully I didn't overstay my welcome, but that's the complete Poppy package right there. Very good games, some better than others, and very, very good speedruns. I didn't even show all of what you can do in this game because there's just so much, but yeah, lots of cool glitches and tricks you can do in this game. So it may look a little daunting, but I would highly recommend picking up the runs of any of these 3 games I just showed if it at all interests you. And even if you're just interested in playing Poppy in general, definitely do it. Very recently, they launched a triple pack of all 3 games for every console, Switch, PlayStation, and Xbox. So if you have any console, even if you don't have a PC, you have the chance to play these games now. So definitely would recommend that.
Yeah, it's really cool, like, how in-depth, you can get with some of these glitches. Like, there is so much happening in the second and third game. Like, it is really cool.
Yeah. Like, I briefly mentioned this during Chapter 1 and a little bit during Chapter 2, too. But there, over the course of these 3 chapters, just a lot of really dedicated runners that push these games so far. Which I kind of carried on that tradition with Chapter 3. So it's just nice to see these games progress to the point that they're at.
And hopefully it gets even pushed even further with the next chapter.
Yeah, because Chapter 4 has very recently been teased, and apparently it's coming out in January, so very much looking forward to that. I'm a huge, like, mascot horror, indie horror person in general, so I always look forward to when this genre gets new representation.
Yeah, for sure. The mascot horror is... There are some that have been misses, but a lot of them have been really awesome.
Yeah.
And I genuinely love the mascot horror genre.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Do you have any final thoughts or shoutouts you want to give?
Honestly, not too many, because I already got most of my shoutouts out of the way. I guess just shouting out GDQ for letting me gush about Poppy for 3 hours. It was fun.
Yeah, thank you so much for being on. Everybody, make sure you give Nerd here a follow. Fantastic speedrunner of a lot of these, horror games, and there's other games you play as well. I know, I just cannot think of them right now.
Yeah,
well, is mostly working.
Yeah, well, I've been doing a lot of the Silent Hill 2 remake at the moment. I do some other indie-ish games like Still Wakes the Deep and things like that.
All very good game. So definitely check Nerd out. There's a lot of great speedrunning. Thank you so much for being on. Like I said, I love these mascot horror games, and seeing like a lot of the things you can do in this game was really awesome. I knew a little bit about the tricks, but like I didn't realize how in-depth it would be, so I was really excited to have you on and showcase this. And thank you so much. I hope everybody at home enjoyed. We do not have any more show for you tonight. We will be back tomorrow, 1 p.m. Eastern. We have a Chrono Cross showcase. We're going to be showcasing an E%, which is still a 8-hour run because of the Chrono Cross. But that's... So that's 1 p.m. Eastern. If you did miss out any of this as seen on TV before this, or if you've missed the Poppy Playtime special that we just had, we are going to do a rerun right after this, so you can watch that. And Passion Project, which normally runs at this time, will be back in 2 weeks at this